Hello and welcome to episode 128 of Celtic Rumours TV, the Bawz and Bovril podcast with your host Mark and myself Paul. On the show tonight, we'll be talking about Brendan Rodgers' return to Celtic as a second stint as manager. You can also check out all our links to the podcast in the description below. Don't forget to hit the like and notifications buttons. That will actually notify you when we're live. Uh, Firstly, though, I'll hand off to Mark for a few shout-outs.
Thanks very much, Paul. A few quick shout-outs to the lads on the forum. Richie, Tim Alloy, we John United Ireland, at Glasgow Green, JFP. I emailed JFP yesterday. I put that Paul said to him about getting him on a podcast just whenever it kind of suits him, do you know what I mean? Rather than what suits us, just we'll do it whenever he wants to do it. Few shout-outs to the lads that have joined us. Big Jabber, nice to see you, Jabber. Bobby, my missus. You, Deef, nice to see you. Deef, thanks very much. The best tech podcast out there. Kieran, thanks very much for joining us. Kieran, Michael McKinstry as well. Nice to see you again, mate. Thanks very much. As Paul says, the links to everything's in the link tree in the description box below. Come and join on the forum. We've got a lot of new punters on the forum, Paul. I don't know if that's people that are coming in through watching the stuff on YouTube and that, but there is a lot of new posters and that. So everybody's welcome on there to hear their views about Celtic. That's us, Paul, and you go on with
it. Michael Nicholson and Chris McCoy flew to New York over the weekend to have formal talks with Brendan Rodgers to return as Celtic manager for a second since. Talks went well, and Brendan has returned to London yesterday to meet Celtic's shareholder David Desmond. Brendan is believed to have asked for a kind of a greater transfer fund than previous seasons, proper infrastructure, better investment in coaching and staff facilities and training. He wants better ambitions for Champions Leagues for the club and not the same old under Peter Lord. I actually heard an interesting thing today, Mark, right, that Peter Lord actually doesn't want Rodgers back.
yeah. Probably wouldn't be. I think it was. I think Lowell would probably, if it was his choice, it would be the boy from Man City, Paul.
Man City himself,
and doing that. Even Francis the Third McFarlane, thanks very much for joining us, Dr. Strangelove. Nice to see you again, mate.
And I believe that Desmond actually basically told him that he's chairman to stay out of the football matters. And that was one of the concerns, I think, of Brendan Rodgers, that Peter Lord being still at the club and their kind of friction kind of relationship.
Well, as I've said, Paul, it's nothing. Lowell shouldn't be making any decisions about the football and stuff, but you can understand why the chairman's got a say in who becomes the manager. I mean, that's understandable, but when the push comes to the shove, it was always going to be Dermot Desmond's decision. That's why I've said all along, I always thought it was going to be Rodgers, even when people were saying, oh, Rodgers has come out and said he didn't want it and stuff like that, just the connection between him and Dermot Desmond. So everything's, for me, if Rodgers comes back, everything's going to be covered, all the bases. Do you know what I mean? It will be just a case of Lowell and Rodgers will have a professional relationship, and that'll be that kind of thing. But I mean, Lowell's meant to be stayed at his at Brendan Rodgers' holiday home, or is it Mallorca, whatever it is you call it. He's meant to have stayed there as well. So the relationship can't be that bad between them. If it was that bad, I don't think Rodgers would even entertain coming back, to be honest, Paul. Because there's always going to be that kind of friction if they were still on no even talking terms, there would be a kind of friction in the club. So I think that will be dealt with and deed and buried now, Paul. I wouldn't see it being any problem at all.
But do you think when Ange left, Mark, we kind of got this kind of, it wasn't really a kind of an official list. You know, we just got managers. There's Potter's name was thrown around, but he was never going to kind of come to Celtic with the kind of payment that he was still getting at Chelsea. Nuxton was there. There was Jesse March was there, and is Rodgers the best candidate? Experience-wise.
Oh, I mean, well, that's the thing as well, Paul. Celtic not saying play it right. It would have been a bit of a gamble. I still like to think it would have worked, and I would have liked to have seen him getting the chance. That's the kind of, it's like, how I feel about Ronnie and that. That's the kind of coaches I like. These young, forward-thinking kind of coaches. I would like to have seen Notson get it. But when you look at the experience in that of the candidates, right? Potter, as you say, he's still getting mega money off of Chelsea, probably waiting in a pub league job coming up. Marsh, I'd have liked to see Marsh get it as well. Again, we know he's a good manager, but blah, blah, blah. Not getting into, Leeds against just a pure poison chalice of a job. And Rodgers was the outstanding candidate for a simple reason. You know he's going to come and he's going to win. We know that he's going to keep winning. Do you know what I mean? And that's it for me. The three kind of outstanding candidates were Rodgers, Marsh, and Potter. But we can really get Potter. I don't think that was ever feasible. Do you know what I mean? And out of that, I think Rodgers is probably the best out of the realistic candidates for it, Paul. I really do.
Because all I'm hearing, like,
hold on 2 seconds. Hold on, yeah. Paul. Even Ant McKem, nice to see you. Green Whale RPG, nice to see you, mate. Thanks for coming in. Oh, Celtic Frank in the forum, right. I know who you're now, Francie, right? Yeah. Nice to see you, mate.
Because all I'm seeing is kind of around Twitter, and I'm seeing stuff on our own forum page as well, Mark, is like, well, he's failed at Leicester. Basically Leicester got relegated over him. But I'm seeing nothing people saying why he failed at Leicester the last season. One is because the owners of Leicester, they own Malaysian Airlines, Mark, right? Okay. But their main business is the duty frees over in Asia. So when COVID hit, they had no income coming in through the duty free, and there was no fans coming into the stadium. So Leicester, as a football club, were hit twice as bad as any other football club.
Aye, I get what you mean. Aye.
Yeah, so they had to sell.
Any money to
yeah, there was no money. There was no income coming in from both ways. So he had to sell his best players, and he was bringing in practically no one, Mark, free transfers, players for 1-2 million, Mark, that aren't going to cut. Like he had Danny Ward in goal. Do you know what I mean?
Aye, I don't think you can blame Rodgers for Leicester getting relegated. I really don't.
That's why, like, I'm not really counting his last season at Leicester, Mark. Do you know what I mean? Like, he's finished twice, 2 seasons in a row, 5th, an FA Cup, and getting them to Conference League final. You know what I mean? It's not a bad return for Leicester, Mark, is it?
Aye, definitely, Paul. Aye. All right, so there, that's Kieran's Kiezo, and right, Ant McMillan, right, got yous now, lads.
All right.
But as you say, to get rid of Kasper Schmeichel and everything, and they weren't really backing him with any real finance to like, they were selling their best players and replacing them with the kind of cheaper versions of players and that, Paul, and that's never going to work out. But again, you can't. It's like people holding going to what happened to Jesse Marsh at Leeds, holding that against them. It's like, I mean,
Leeds is a poison chalice, yeah.
Aye, it's like Spurs. We've spoke about that for weeks about Ange going to Spurs and how that's a poison chalice. But when you really think about it, Paul, the majority of the jobs done in that league are a poison chalice. There's no guarantee any longevity in your job prospects. Do you get what I mean? We've said that even before Ange went to England, how many times did we sit on here and talk about managers down in England? Every one was about half a dozen games for the sack, unless they're one of the bigger, like Pep. Do you know what I mean? But even if Man City went in a run and lost 6 league games in a row, even the Man City, the board would be maybe saying here, which went wrong here. Do you know what I mean? That would be a major balls up for Man City. So these smaller clubs, it's just Leicester was just another one. They won the league, and then they get rid of Ranieri after them winning them the league. Just another bit of a basket case of a club altogether, isn't it?
Yeah, and he actually got that called Cagliari, is it, in Italy from Serie B, actually promoted for the first time up to Serie A. You know what I mean? So he's not a bad coach either by Ranieri, so he's not. I won't like him at Celtic, like, but he's not a bad coach, like, you know. Are we? Do you think though? Are we getting a better Rodgers than we did 4 years ago, Mark? Do you think he's learned more from being in the Premier League with Leicester the second time, in Europe wise, getting Leicester to the conference semi-final and stuff like that? Do you think he's learned different stuff, or?
Well, I believe he must have, Paul. I mean, let's be honest. He went Leicester weren't going toe to toe with teams in Europe and getting to that kind of level. Do you know what I mean? The semi-finals and stuff like that. So, he's. I mean, what is he? 50, 51 or something like that. He'll have learned from which went wrong at Leicester, and he's probably learned a lot as well. I'd like to think about. The grass maybe isn't always greener now. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I've seen a lot of people saying, "Oh, he'll just run away the next job that comes up in England and that." But maybe he'll know this time. Maybe he'll think, "Well, wait, now." I mean, would Rodgers have walked away for an English job if he'd, like, imagine the last 2 seasons had been under Rodgers, if you get what I mean, Paul, and he'd come in and done what Ange had done, blah blah blah. Would you think Rodgers would have left Celtic for the Spurs job? If he was getting that the level of batting that he was getting, like the level of
I wouldn't think he would have went first time round, Mark. Do you know what I mean? That was kind of the main reasons he left. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you could go back to the John McGinn scenario. You know what I mean? He wanted him, and he didn't get it.
There's that much, and it's just said. I mean, I don't. Everybody knew Rodgers was leaving Celtic, but we were all expecting it to be the end of the season. But what jobs were going to be available to him at the end of the season? Maybe Leicester weren't willing to wait to the end of the season to give him the job. There's all different things, but I mean, let's not drag all that up again, because there's nothing we can all sit here and moan. I mean, I've said it on the forum, I've said it on the last podcast. When it comes to Rodgers, my head says yes, 100 million %, but my heart's still not convinced, just for the simple reason the way you left in that. But if he's going to be the manager, we need to get behind him, because I've no doubt he will be a success for us. There's no really any doubt in my mind about that, especially as well. We've got the club's a lot better set up than it was the last time he was here. The recruitment's a lot better. We've got Mark Lowley's scouting team and stuff like that. So I think things are set up a lot better for probably like Rodgers coming in as like an experienced Premier League manager, but we're starting to operate a bit more like the bigger clubs, Paul, that we keep talking about, that we should be operating.
And that's what he wanted, Mark. That's when he first came here. I remember we saw the fitness levels of our team that time taking a step up even further than Ronnie Dyler, you know, and we all thought Scott Brown that time was finished, you know. And sure, he prolonged his career, Mark, for another 6 years, you know. So, like, I think, like what you're saying there, like your heart says fucking thing, but I think it's taken Brendan Rodgers too, Mark, a lot of balls to come back to Celtic after what he did.
Oh, aye. But just said, I know, when people were saying, "Oh, I wouldn't date," I mean, money talks. He's obviously happy with that. But I'm trying to look at it from a point of view, Paul, that he's thinking, I've got unfinished business up there. Do you know what I mean? As I said there, the club's getting run a lot better. He's got the chance to kick his own and become a European team. Because I don't imagine for a minute that anything. I mean, not even Rodgers would know, but if fans had been promised this or that or this, probably Rodgers will have been allowed to look at what Ange's plans were for like stuff. Because was it no Rodgers that wanted that big air dome thing built?
Yeah.
Do you mean that? Maybe we need to go back to look at stuff like this and like really back him and stuff like that if we want to keep him here for maybe longer than there's somebody in the live chat saying it's just going to, as a manager's just going to have like a 2-year shelf life. But if you keep backing him and if you keep getting better and progressing, I don't see why it would be only need to be like a 2-year shelf life for him.
No, I think as well. Do you remember we built that at the start of the season, kind of halfway through the start of the season, Mark? They came out with this state-of-the-art new gym. You know,
aye.
Rodgers wanted that as well in his time, and he didn't get it. I mean, it just wasn't the players like that was kind of pissing Rodgers off the time. It was the infrastructure. Like we're always saying, Celtic are putting themselves out there, Mark, as a Champions League club. Well, then act like a Champions League club. Put the
Aye.
proper infrastructure in there and let these managers who have these experience at these big clubs put this
Aye.
infrastructure into Celtic.
Have the top class training facilities, the top class like sports science stuff and all that. That's all part of it, Paul. And it's all part of keep a top manager happy.
Mhm.
Do you get what I
It's
mean? 'Cause
modern football now as well,
aye,
Mark, isn't it?
aye. You're not going. I mean, you're not going to attract a top manager at any level if they come in and your training facilities and stuff like that's not up to scratch.
Mhm.
Because
I also,
they look for stuff like this. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I know
of course.
that's one of the big problems with the Man United job. Not just, I mean, their stadiums falling to bits to new as well, but I mean, their training facilities and that. They
Carrot
used
Town,
to
yeah.
have,
It's
aye,
supposed to be also dire, sure, yeah.
aye.
Yeah.
Used to have some of the best facilities in the country. And no, I mean, Ed too told me last time he was at it and that. It's as if they've just really picked, like, even the snobby bits, it's as if they've just picked stuff out like an IKEA catalogue and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Whereas you go to places like Man City and it's totally out of this world for the facilities and stuff.
Mhm. Mhm.
Evening,
If
evening, Robert. Thanks very much for joining us. Will Smith
um,
as well. Nice to see you, mate.
if Rodgers is getting the backing for Europe and gets us off to a flyer, then this appointment could be justified. I think he's going to get one of the biggest transfer budgets, Mark, that Celtic have actually ever given a man. I think that was one of the looking at reports that's kind of out today. That was kind of the one discussions that was with Dermot Desmond was the transfer budget, that he wants a big transfer and he wants them to, like, if he wants at that time, Mark, he wanted Castagna, who we actually signed for Leicester. If he wants this player, like, get this player. Do you know what I mean? If he costs 7 million and you'll get me player for 2 million, I want the 7 million player. I think that's the point Rodgers wants to make. If you want to go to the next level, I need the backing. And I think he's got it this time from Damon, and especially as well, Mark. Nicholson kind of what we saw from him with Ange is he lets the manager do the football stuff and stays away from the football stuff. Do you think we could actually see this transfer window, the 9 million Edward transfer fee, broken?
Maybe, Paul. I don't see why, no.
Mhm.
I really don't. I mean, we spoke about it that Celtic could be able to and should be able to sign at least like one player at that level every summer. So I don't see why, no. I mean, and going back to even the thing with Rodgers, we see for all the negativity we're looking at about how long's he going to stay for, how long's he going to do that. Think of it this way: we know why you left the last time, and I don't think to a man any would disagree with the reasons why you left. It was the way that he left, but I don't think we can disagree with why you left. And he'll have had guarantees that that's not going to be like that this time. That's one of maybe the good things to look at it. Rodgers will have made sure that if he's coming in, he's got a lot to say in the signings. Do you know what I mean? He's got a lot to say in the football decisions. And even if it's down to the football side of things, it's like him and Mark Lowell and the guys like that. They're talking about it, and it's nothing to do with the money men. Until they're talking about actually signing a player and needing to know what the financial side of it is, it's just all the kind of football department that's dealing with it all, and that's the way it should be.
Well, true, like, because we say if he does get what I'm reading is the transfer budget would kind of similar to Andrew's mark, the 35-40 million mark, right? But any sales from players will actually go into the transfer kitty as well, all right? So like we saw with Ange, Mark, you know what I mean? Players sold, it was gone back into the football side of it.
Aye.
Like, so if we had 40 million to spend, and if the Rodgers, if he is the manager, if Rodgers wants a new striker for 10, 12 million, let Rodgers buy that. But then he has to live within his transfer budget then for the rest of his squad. Like, that's what you do at clubs, Mark.
But let's be honest, Paul, even if we have got a transfer budget of 30, 40 million, do we really need to spend that on a squad?
No.
Looking at it now, right, we're saying, right, obviously there will be players leaving, right, but as you say, if we that's the budget, The only way really that Celtic, unless it's like what we call a bargain, like a steel player that maybe only costs 6 or 7, and we think we're getting a kind of bargain with it, it would need to be £10 million signings and stuff like that, Paul, for it to actually affect the squad. I mean, how much would it cost you to go out and replace, say, Alistair Johnson? I mean, really, how much for the way he plays, how good he's been for us in that. I mean, even if you get bid 20 million for him this summer, Paul, I wouldn't be taking that.
I say, Mark, if we were looking to buy him now after he'd been in New York, I'd say that's what you could be paying for a right back of Alistair Johnson's quality.
Aye, I mean, it really is. I think if Rodgers does come in, it will be maybe, Paul, just 2 or 3 big signings. I honestly think that's what it will be. I just don't, because we don't really need to pad the squad out with any. Do you know what I mean? Cheaper so-called signings and stuff like that. Because our squad's too big, really, isn't it?
Well, here's a good one here from Martin there, right? Evening, lads. I think a lot of people will be surprised how many players in the current squad won't cut under Rodgers. Rodgers 50 million on players sold and 11 million just in context. You know, I think a lot of players, Mark, could struggle in this team the way Rodgers likes to play. You know.
Well, obviously the way the team's going to play is going to change, but I don't know.
And I'm going to be controversial here, and it's going to come back to bite me, I say, but I think Taylor will struggle in a Brendan Rodgers team. The way he likes his wingers up and down the wing, you know.
Aye.
Like he came in well with the inverted full backs, Mark, stepping into the midfield area and he's up and down that wing.
Would Kyogo fit into a Brendan Rodgers type team?
I don't know. Rodgers likes his strikers in around the box as well, Mark, don't he? You know.
I think Ozmere suited to a Brendan Rodgers type of team. You know, I think he could really kick on under kind of Rodgers' type of coaching. Big O, I really do. Big, strong centre forward. That's what.
Well, this is one thing, Mark, like that we kind of saw on the Brendan Rodgers in his first spell here. He's able to improve players. Do you know what I mean? Like we bought Edouard, Mark, from Paris Saint reserves on loan that time. You know what I mean? Out of nowhere, we got Dembele, we got. You know what I mean? So we had in Chal, Mark, who was a good player, but then his head just went AWOL, you know, but he does improve players, you know.
Abada will improve massively under Rodgers. I don't think Abada is going to be here, Frankie.
I don't know. Looking at the things today, Mark,
no, again,
advertising.
But maybe, Paul, I mean, even the manager, but a change of manager to anything, do you know what I mean? Anything can happen. I mean, let's be honest, Paul. Under Brendan Rodgers, you can see James McCarthy getting into the team with under Rodgers. Do you know what I mean? That's how it's. I mean, it's a clean slate really for everybody. And there'll probably be a few surprises of players that they go.
I think we either, Mark. I think if Yossa and Abada stayed at the club, they're your 2 wingers for next season. Because Rodgers likes his wingers.
Aye.
You know, and I think there'll be his 2 wing.
Will he still play the 4-2-3-1?
Well, what I saw of him, Mark, out of at his time at Leicester, because I watched freaking football as football to me, Mark. I watch it anyway, you know. But what I noticed him about Leicester, Mark, is according to his opposition, Rodgers changed his formation at Leicester. He either went to 4-1-4-1, 4-3-3, or 4-3-2-1. You know what I mean? So he changed. That's one thing we kind of didn't see under Rodgers at Celtic in his first spell, Mark. He kept this the same old. You know?
Aye. Well, maybe that's a thing that he's learned as well.
So, like, that's what I'm saying. Like that's what I think we're going to see. This different Rodgers, Mark, is, you know, like, do you remember the times there, Mark, when we were playing the likes of Livingston under Rodgers, Mark, and we were just passing the ball back and forth, and you know, I think Rodgers now knows, Mark, that he can still play his style of football, but change the formation to a more attacking formation instead of having a flat four, or, you know,
Aye.
you know,
Well, but
you
there,
know.
what we're saying is he maybe changed. If he's tinkering these formations and that, he's obviously looked at things a bit different. Because I mean, it was kind of his 4-2-3-1 was kind of set in stone, wasn't it?
Yeah, 4-3-2-1. Yeah, and then there was a few things like he changed his formation a lot, Mark. It
Because
was more so to the
if he does
opposition, like,
if
you
he
know.
does go to play 4-2-3-1, Paul, with us, we're really lacking in somebody to play that number 10 kind of role. I mean, we've said that before. We'd like to see Haksabanovic try out in that, but I've said about playing Kyogo in there. But there's nobody at the club really that you would say is an out and out kind of number 10 ACM, would you?
But like, just going by what you're saying there, Mark, we always said here in the podcast, we didn't see Haksabanovic as a winger, and we'd like to see him in that more. And we know the way Rodgers likes to hold on to possession, Mark. Like, Haksabanovic can hold the ball and pick out that pass. Could he be the player that slots in there? You know,
You might be, aye.
you know.
I mean, I keep saying it, man. I'd like to see him get a run in the team, but anytime he does seem to get a start, he never shines, didn't he, no Haksabanovic?
I just think, Mark, he was for me, Mark, and even he said it himself. Like, he wasn't really a winger. You know what I mean? He
Aye,
was a winger without pace for me. Do you know what I mean?
aye.
Just wasn't that person, Mark, who would run down the line to beat the man. Like, you know, he just was never that player. You know, and I don't. You know, we've said it numerous times here. Like, and I'm not saying it now that Ange's gone, Mark, because I said it loads of times on here. He was never a winger. You know.
Aye, nah. They're talking
You know.
about Turnbull. I think Turnbull's going to be away this summer. I mean, he's only got a year left in his contract, and there's not even been a peep about him getting any kind of extension, unless well, if he's not, you'd like to think that his agent would have been looking for a club for him up to now, but again, with a change of manager, what's going to happen? Is Turnbull going to get offered a new deal?
Well, Mark, if Rodgers wants to bring Celtic to this next level he was in Europe, like, are you going to keep the likes of Turnbull? That's the way I'm looking at it, you know. You know, does he want to bring in players better than that? You know, does he want to bring in players better than Kyogo, better than Hayate? Do you know what I mean? You know,
Aye.
you know, like, we don't know, Mark. We actually, like, Rodgers could come in here, do a pre-season with the club, and then look at the team and go.
But see the thing about it, Paul.
Don't suit me, like, you know.
I mean, let's not be kidding. Brendan Rodgers will have seen every Celtic game we've played for he left.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And see if he is getting the job right away, he'll get all the reports for all this. Do you know what I mean? All the backroom stuffs about all the players. And Rodgers will know himself. He'll know himself what players he want. Obviously, if the players want to stay here still, but he'll know what players he wants to keep, what players will do for a season, and what players he wants to get rid of right away. Do you know what I mean? But here, I mean, just because he's not been managing Celtic, don't think Rodgers are coming in here blind and doesn't know what the team's like and have an idea even of what certain players are capable of playing his kind of style and stuff like that.
Exactly. You know, you could be like what you said there, like, Mark, like the likes of Abada could be, his head could be torn for another season at Celtic under Brendan Rodgers. You know what I mean? Because if you know football, Mark, you know Brendan Rodgers. You know what I mean? You know the name.
Aye.
You know.
It's a kind of again, Paul. It's a kind of box office name. I mean, there's no many guys that would manage to get like manage two teams in the Premier League, Paul, and then come back to manage Celtic to get or even come to manage Celtic and stuff like that. So it's even down to that. There you go, Paul. Northampton, Turnbull's class. He's a Rodgers player.
Bally. Not a chance, man. No. I'm not even going to discuss it.
Martin. I mean, Turnbull. I like Turnbull. I thought he would have been a great signing for us. I don't know whether it was down to his injury, but he's not became the player a lot of us expect him to. But it's just because he's done his last year of his contract, and there's not been any kind of even a sniff him being offered an extension. That's why one of the reasons why I think he'll be away this summer. Because he'll have been told, maybe he's been told a few months ago that he's not got any future at Celtic, and then Angie's done a bunk. Do you know what I mean? So Rodgers might come in and say, "No, get him tied down to a new deal." We don't know.
Do you still think, though, Mark, that like the players that are on loan now to still to come back, the likes of Yesi, Yorhidi, Shaw, Zorro? Do you think they're gone? Do you think the club will make a decision on them anyway, and that they'll be gone anyway?
You'll be gone, Paul. I don't think any of them's got any future at Celtic at all. Just, I don't know, man. Even a Yeti's just. I mean, that's us getting back to Peter Lowell times, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Signing a Yeti.
Yeah.
Just one of the craziest deals Celtic's signed in recent years. It really is.
Tomball's biggest problem is he doesn't do the dirty side of the game. That's it, Mark. He can be outstanding for one game. The next game, he can be just let the game pass him.
Anonymous. He struggles to pass the ball 5 yards.
Tomball's quality Tomball's quality, Mark, when he comes 5 up. That's actually a good statement there by you, Dave. Is there any other player, Mark, do you think that could struggle in this current team? Might struggle with Ange.
Struggle with Rodgers.
Struggle from Ange's team to Rodgers' team, sorry.
I wouldn't think so, Paul. The only position I'm struggling to fill, changing to like a 4-2-3-1, is that number 10, Camero. But for me, they were saying, we could try Haksabanovic here, we could try Kyogo there, but there's no a player at the club I would say as an out-and-out number 10 that you could be quite comfortable playing in there, don't know. So I think that's got to be maybe a kind of main priority. If that's the way he's going to play it. But I don't see how really any of them should struggle that much, Paul. Really. I mean, it's not as if none of them played football before Ange got a hold of them.
Hart, Mark, do you think?
Well, maybe Hart. That's a good shout.
Rodgers likes to play out from the back, but then again, Mark Peter.
So did Ange.
So did Ange and Peter.
So did that. Aye.
Wasn't that type of goalkeeper either under Brendan Rodgers? He wasn't comfortable. We saw what kinds of keepers. The first time round, Brendan, what he brought into Freeze to play that.
Just.
And what disaster that was, Mark, wasn't it?
Aye. I backed up Brendan Rodgers at the time, Paul, of the transfers and that, so I'm not going to change it now. And I'm not like flip-flop and trying to lick his hoop out or that, but I don't really think you can blame Rodgers for many of the transfers that happened then.
The first 2 seasons, Mark, when
Rodgers
got the backing, everything seemed fine with Rodgers signing. And then when the likes of Corrigan, what's his name, Corrigan, Mark, the fellow
Congerton, aye. Congerton.
And Peter Lorre started fucking going, I don't know what they were bringing in, Mark, really. Do you know?
But it's like
Peter Lorre just,
It's like, see, when a manager gets into a club, Paul, right, they'll be allowed to make a couple of signings to their own kind of tastes. Do you get what I mean? And when Rodgers came in, it would be like Scott Sinclair, do you know what I mean? Guys like that. And now he'll come into Celtic, and Celtic will have a list of players that they've got ready to pull the trigger on the deal if Rodgers wants any of them. But it's like the Norwegian boy that's signing. So that's nothing to do with Rodgers. That's Celtic signing players for the future. And that, again, Paul, I've harped on about it. That's what should have been happening at Celtic for years.
Exactly, Mark. The scouting system has to be there. Like, he's 20 years of age, Mark. He's one for the future. And it's one then, hopefully, that Rodgers can help progress. What I've seen of him, Mark, on YouTube, he looks like
Well, there we go. Could he be Turnbull's replacement in the squad?
Could be. You know, and
I mean,
interesting fact about him, Mark, right? His name is Olin Tiago Hlum, I think. He actually changed his middle name Tiago because when he grew up, he was a
people
fan of
say so.
Tiago in Liverpool.
Somebody says that, but did Harold Brackback no say he wasn't sure if that was just a kind of fairy story? I'm sure Harold Brackback says he wasn't sure if that was true.
Was that
But here,
Ronnie's last club as well, Mark? Was it the club that he was with? Was that where we took Ronnie from?
I might have been, in fact, Paul.
I think it was, Mark. Yeah, I
Aye.
think it was. You know, like these are, Mark. These are countries, Mark, where we actually had good success in signing players. Norway, Sweden, all the Scandinavian countries. Like we just shouldn't neglect them. But do you think now, Mark, like with Rodgers coming in, do you think that's just finished in the Asian market, or do you think we're still going to explore that? Or
No, but Paul, this is down to Mark Lowell again.
mm-hmm.
This is obviously a kind of Mark Lowell football department kind of signing the young
But
guy.
that was one of his specialities, Mark, because he worked close with Ange in Yokohama.
Aye.
In the Asian market, like, you know what I mean? Like there is, I
Just
think
got
there's still a lot of gems, Mark, that we don't see in the J League. You know.
there definitely will be. Just to answer that with Hoagie, what Kieran says here, I see anything that Peter Lowell's done for the club for the money he's made, is the way he negotiates transfer fees and that. I've not got a bad word to say for him. It's when he sticks his nib into making decisions about signings, about who we should be signing and stuff like that. He should never have got involved in that. And that was the only thing he ever done wrong for Celtic. That and appointing him and Desmond, appointing Neil Lennon the second time. But that's still, I'm not talking I'm doing for what he's done for the club, what we've won under him, but just we could have been at so much a higher level, a lot further on than we are. And it's a European standard that if Lowell hadn't held us back when it came to the football side of things.
Mm-hmm. Like financial wise, Mark, Celtic Football Club wouldn't be in the position they are now only for Peter Love.
No,
you know what I mean?
No, even as I said, Paul, the transfer deals he negotiated for us with the sell-on clauses and everything, the money just keeps on rolling in, all the sponsorship deals and everything. If he just stuck to that, I'd have never had any problem with him at all whatsoever. It was just when he started getting involved, and even doing, Paul, when John Park was still here, at least John Park had a bit of football brain and was keeping him right on these things. But when John Park left, it went downhill even further. Do you know what I mean? Get back to that Colin Kazim Richards guy. I do the hands client needing out. Was it Turkey was needing out it because he threatened to batter a photographer or a journalist?
Yeah, that time I remember that. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then the next thing he needs out wherever it was, Turkey or wherever he was, and the next thing he rocks up at Celtic. And it's they kind of crazy signings that at some point in times. How do you know that he'd a hand in signings? Because that's what his job. That's what his job was. He was a CEO. It was him that made the decisions and done the negotiations and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So there's no doubt about it that Peter Lowell stuck his neb in far too much. And exactly that's the reason that one of the reasons that Rodgers left. Look at what happened with John McGinn. That was completely down to Lowell.
I think that was one of the kind of reassurance, Mark, that what you're seeing all over Twitter as well is that he kind of keeps his business out of the football signings side of things.
No, I'm not moaning. It's his job. Wait a minute, Paul. It's his job to negotiate transfers and stuff like that. It's not his job to decide what players we sign. To do favours for his pals, like do the hand and sign just rejects because it's one of his pals players.
The headlines from them again. Jesus, shit. To clear up Lennon done well but never got backed by Laurel. Ayesi Duff Barkas wasn't Lennon's players he wanted and he couldn't sell apples due to the COVID stopping. Look, well, there's the point, Mark, you're trying to explain there that Martin is trying to say, you know.
Lennon done well but never get back below. Ayesi Duff Barkas.
Well, Lennon did one. Yes, he did, because he actually intervened in that deal.
Aye. It was him
You
that
know,
phoned again and spoke him into coming. And that was only on loan meant to be, wasn't it? You honestly know, Martin, you cannot be no blaming Neil Lennon for us losing 10 in a row.
you know.
Oh, that's part about having no fans in because it was COVID and stuff like that. That's a lot of nonsense. Absolute garbage.
Lennon's biggest problem that time, Mark, was when we win the Champions League qualifiers and he came out and slated the team. That if players didn't want to be
Aye,
here, don't be here. And
aye.
then not selling them on and keeping the players who didn't want to be here, Mark, for that one season. Look, we were all happy at the time when it happened, but in hindsight, Mark, it's if a player wants to leave, Mark, for me, it's Celtic as a football club now need to say good riddance to you. You know.
No, if a player wants to leave, aye. If a player wants to leave, get them out the door, Paul, for as much money as you can. Evening a Doyle, nice to see you again, mate.
Do you think this is a big statement by Desmond, Mark, going back in for Brendan Rodgers that when Ange walked out?
Oh, see if you think about it, Paul. See if, right, we spent all summer 2 years ago chasing Eddie Howe, which again, Paul, it's a kind of Brendan Rodgers level, a manager. He's managed in England, managed at big levels, top levels. So if that had been, if that hadn't went tits up the way it did, and we ended up getting Ange, it seems to be is that the pattern now? Do you know what I mean? We went for Rodgers, right? Lennon to steady the boat, and then it went beat Pete Tong. But then we went for another guy that had like experience at the top level in England, with Eddie Howe, to try and bring him in. So I mean, we said it the other night, and we keep saying it. Celtic really, the new is a really attractive prospect, Paul, to any manager to get a chance to come up, win trophies, managing the Champions League and stuff like that. So I think it's just a case of Dermot Desmond has looked at it and he knew that at some point Rodgers wanted to come back. I think that's obvious for that interview that's come on. Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So I think it's just the kind of stars have aligned a bit, and Dermot Desmond's just said, "No, this is the man I want. I want to get the job." So he's basically getting it. But it is a kind of statement of intent. Do you know? It really is. I mean, Rangers, they beat in that last game. The next thing that last year on Sky's came out, that same get bragging right so summer, and now Ange has left, so Celtic people in the press are having a bit of a prod at Celtic and a wee bit of a pop at them. But as we've seen before, Paul, anytime Dermot Desmond gets a bit of the hump, Celtic come back big time. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's kind of what he's done here. Even if it is maybe a wee bit of a two-finger to Ange. Do you know what I mean? To say, you left, do you know what I mean? You left us in the kind of lurch, not as bad as him, but we'll take him back. And look, we've just pulled in one of the best managers about the UK now. We've just pulled him back in here.
No, I agree totally, chat. Just to end the live chat, are you guys happy with Brendan Rodgers coming back, or are you still bitter over 4 years ago when he walked? I think Terence, Mark, who isn't too happy about. We're trying to get Terence on tonight, but he's unfortunately unavailable. He's not too happy about Rodgers coming back, is he?
No, he's definitely no.
And why is that? Why you talk to him? Like, why is he? Is it just over the way he walked out? And
Aye, it really is just the way you walked out and left us in the lurch, took backroom staff and stuff like that. I mean, there is a lot of fans feel the same way. And you can understand it because, I mean, people go, oh, how can you it's only fit, blah, 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 get on with it and stuff like that. But, I mean, you buy emotionally into all these kind of guys and stuff. Do you know what I mean? Look, I messaged Welsh, done that. Next manager, I'm no, see all this punching the badge and that, I'm no buying into it and that, blah, blah, blah. And Welsh messaged back right away, something like, you will, we can't help it. And that isn't, it's true, do you know what I mean? Evening, Brian, nice to see you, Brian. You're Mikey as well. Evening, Mikey.
I think Mark, what's going around now is that Rodgers is kind of looking at his backroom staff. Do you think John Kennedy should be part of this backroom staff, or do you think Rodgers should actually just bring in new backroom staff and different idea.
For me, that's up to Rodgers, Paul.
You know, because we know Rodgers rates freaking Kennedy highly as well, Mark, because at the time he actually wanted to take him down to Leicester as well in that time.
I mean, when he was leaving, he wanted Kennedy to get director of football job at Celtic, Paul.
Mm-hmm. You know, I think Kennedy himself, Mark, wants to kind of wants to go.
I think that's just reading between the lines, Paul. Why you know just come out and say does they want to go?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Paul, I've said it for the last couple of years about Kennedy. Why does he not take a plunge and go and try his hand somewhere to be a manager?
Maybe this is the next step, Mark, for him. You know, go down as assistant in the Premier League and learn the kind of ropes in the Premier League, and then maybe take that step. You know,
I just think he's been that.
He's going.
I mean, is he going to learn? Is he going to learn anything else on working under Ange? He's already worked under him for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But see, if it is Rodgers, it's got to be the manager. Whether he wants Kennedy, Scott Brown, or Big Colo Touré, or whoever, as long as it's Rodgers, it's picking his staff. I've not really got a problem who it is.
I don't think I don't think this time round Davis will actually be with him. You know.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
I think he kind of wants to go into the management and kind of himself now, isn't this? You know, take that step. You know, like, are you in favour of maybe Scott Brown coming up as assistant, Mark? But I don't see Scott Brown leaving Fleetwood, Mark, as a manager at the moment and going up as assistant to Celtic. Do you?
I don't know, Paul. I imagine. Well, for a start, I imagine the pay will be better. Celtic's assistant as at Fleetwood.
Mm-hmm.
I seen somebody put on the forum. Somebody stays down there, and he's his brother or something's involved with Fleetwood, and their owner's a bit of a shady character. He's due to get to jail for money stuff like that. So
illegal stuff going on down there. Yeah.
So maybe if as I said, if Rodgers wants Scott Brown, it would be hard for Scott Brown to turn that down. I think, Paul.
You know,
it's just even for the Polly being back at Celtic and being involved with the coaching side of things and that. I think if you get offered the
this
job,
could be actually, Mark, a stepping stone then for Scott Brown, maybe eventually taking that Celtic job, working under Brendan Rodgers. And
their days are long gone for me, Paul.
You know,
they kind of days are long gone.
Yeah.
Really, no, I know what you're saying. Just the way coaching is.
But I think that's the way. Maybe that's the way Celtic would think, though. If they hire Scott Brown's assistant, that maybe eventually he might take the reins. You know.
Well, it might be a kind of old Liverpool boot room kind of situation, but I don't know. They need to. It's not as if they came with Rodgers and then left in 2 or 3 year time. If I give Scott Brown the job, do you know what I mean? I think he would need to go out and do a lot more, kind of get a bit more experience under his belt before he could even get thought about for that. Saying that, I mean, there is people that want Kennedy to get the job at certain times and that.
Sure, we fucking seen that disaster when that happened, didn't we? You know, Jesus Christ, I did a whole year. I did a whole year podcast on that fucking slate Kennedy that time. You know, would anyone take that serious assistant as Rodgers number 2? I think he's going to Leicester. I think he's in talks with Leicester now. Marcia, you know. I don't think Mark. I just want to talk to you about the process, right? Of Celtic recruiting managers. Like we seen with Neil Lennon that time. There was no one interviewed for the job. Lennon got the job that time, supposedly at Hampden after the cup final. Eddie Howe, Mark, we waited practically 8 weeks for Eddie Howe to come in. We didn't know if we had a backup. We turned to our usual City links for that one. This time round, it's Rodgers. He seems to be the only kind of manager we're talking to. Like, are Celtic doing the process right, Mark? Like we don't seem to be kind of interviewing people at all. We just stick to one person and That's it,
Well,
really. You know?
they have said that people have been interviewed, but it depends again to kind of what level.
Mm-hmm.
I said before, Paul, because of the position we're in, would have been surprised with the kind of names of guys that would be linked with the job. Or it's like that guy Janssen. Do you know what I mean? It's not as if he probably did fire in that he would be interested in the job, but maybe he wasn't a serious contender. But it's a kind of surprise just these names popping up out of nowhere. So all these managers were probably interested in it, but only so many of them have got to kind of as far as even talking to them. Do you know what I mean? I think, honestly, I think Paul, the only two that spoke to is Brendan Rodgers and the Man City guy. I think that's the only two that spoke to at any length.
Marcia, and would you be in favour of him coming in, Marcia, that if he was the candidate?
That's a big gamble, I would think, Paul. Again, see if we were going down that kind of road with him, that would make it even more important we brought in a director of football, because he could only come in and be the first team coach. You couldn't leave him. You can't leave him with any major decisions when it comes to even down to coming to signings and stuff like that, Paul.
Like, that's why I'm in favour of the Rodgers appointment, Mark, more so on that, like, because that's a project manager for me, you know what I mean, who's built up his reputation with Celtic. He'd either walk out, he'd go down then to the Premier League, Mark, or if it doesn't work out, he's going to get sacked. At least with Rodgers, Mark, you know what you're getting. You know, we know what we're getting. We're getting a high caliber manager, experience in Europe and in the team, and he knows the club, you know, and I think that's...
He knows the club, he knows the Scottish game. It's just, it'll probably be a kind of a smooth transition, Paul. There won't be that many major changes in Celtic in the coming weeks, I don't think. Because he's coming into a totally different animal if he came into the first time he came in. The structure's in place behind him. All he needs to do is put his own tweak on things and start running things his own way without any kind of major changes. Get a couple of his own players in and it'll just tick along nicely.
And I think Mickey got sacked after, was it 7 or 8 games, I think, in Parma. That time, I think, Marcia, when he was over there, I think it was 8 games or something like that, 8 or 11 games. I think he was sacked, Mark. Like, saying a lot, really, isn't there?
I mean, surely Celtic are at a higher level than that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Mark. Like, I mean, like, this is, for me, like, this is Celtic Football Club. Like, it's my club. Like, and I don't want to, for us to be a project for someone to build up their manager's career. Like it was different with Ange, Mark. Ange has been there. Ange was 50, 58, 56 when he came to Celtic. He just didn't manage in Europe. He had experience. It was a big difference between Ange and Murcia, you know?
But even doing to that, Paul, even doing that Maresca, it's like that's even a bigger risk than like getting Ronnie in. I mean, it's just that would have been the least inspiring. That would be the least inspiring appointment, Paul. That Maresca. I just don't think it's. Again, I think that was just.
Do you know what, Mark? Do you know what? That appointment would worry me, and it'd make me question what link do Celtic have to Manchester City group as a whole. You know?
Aye. I spoke about that with Mikey the other day. It's like, if we're just going to be this kind of like, day as if we're part of the City group, why? Not that I want it, to be honest, Paul, but why do they not just buy us then? We need to, I mean, it's good to have these links and connections with big teams because it can come in handy when you're trying to sign players and stuff like that, but no constantly looking at, all right, well, what do Man City kind of advise us to do in these situations? I mean, it's as if sometimes it's as if we need to run everything by somebody for the City group before it gets an okay.
Exactly. It's like we're looking at Denmark for, like, what do you think of this decision? Like, do you think we should make this decision? And if the City's group says it's okay, and you know that's the way we kind of look for the last couple of years, Mark. Want this?
Aye.
You know, I'm sure the City Group didn't tell us fucking hire Neil Lennon inside the Hampden shows. I mean, that's what they didn't. You know, like we're going here, Mark, to Celtic fans forgiving Brendan Rodgers for his left. Like, do you think the same will happen to Neil Lennon? Like the Celtic fans will forgive him for losing the tenure
Oh,
row?
aye. Eventually, time's a great healer, Paul.
You know, because I would
You know
like
what I mean? And you can't.
as a
I mean,
manager, but to be in attendance and get the applause he deserves inside
as
the
a
Celtic
player,
stadium.
the captain, and Paul, even as I said, his first stint as a manager,
Mm-hmm.
you get no complaints about it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Even his European record.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that the only thing that tainted Neil Lennon's kind of Celtic, kind of quote unquote legacy is just that last stint as a manager. But as I say, Paul, seen 10-year time of that, people will mellow out of that, and it'll no matter as much to people.
Yeah, because
We'll,
you know what,
we'll
you like
probably
to
we'll
come
probably
back
be
in
into.
attendance and get the applause that you know what Neil Lennon kind of should get. Like you know,
I mean, he doesn't deserve to get any abuse like that. See that wee Siamese account on Twitter?
mm-hmm.
They say that's him. I'm not 100% convinced it's him, but it might be. Him and his agent might have a log into it, but some of the abuse he gets on that's no real. Do you know what I mean? You've got to remember he's still a human being. He doesn't need personal abuse or stuff that went wrong when he was at Celtic.
I mean, Hoggy Boy, what are you on about? Who's blaming Neil Lennon for anything? I'm just saying Neil Lennon should get the applause that he should get. Do you know what I mean? You know,
I think that maybe be. Is that you, Neil?
you know, I'm great fan of Neil Lennon. What Neil Lennon did this like Neil Lennon. Mark, in my thing, Mark should go down as a legend of the club. What he did for the club, you know, trophy wise, and you know.
Oh, definitely. As I said, just that year and a year or whatever it was he was in charge was that absolute
I just
disaster.
think there was too many things, Mark, that just went wrong at the club that time as well, weren't there? Do you know?
Aye.
Team players wanting away, everything falling apart. It was just look. You could look at Juventus that time, Mark. They were actually going for 10 in a row over in Italy as well, weren't they? Paris Saint-Germain didn't win the title in France that year, and you know.
It was all weird. There was weird results over Europe that year. I just blamed Neil Lennon for all of them.
You know, like Neil Lennon was an old school coach and manager. Sorry, I was taking a drink there. Do you think? Yeah, that's. You know what? I think that's not what we're getting from Brendan Rodgers, Mark. Even though his age, Rodgers kind of stays within the kind of evolution of football. Do you know the times of football? Rodgers kind of reinvents himself as well, Mark, doesn't he?
He keeps moving with the times.
Yeah.
And again, but Paul, I mean, we don't. I said it when he was our manager, Paul. I think he tinkers with stuff too much at times. And I said that. I even said that to you about Ange maybe in the last few months before we maybe knew that the players maybe thought he was leaving or whatever. But it was as if he was tinkering with stuff too much, and I don't like to say overthinking it because we know coaching is a lot of thinking, but I don't know how to put it. But just go out there and set it up and just keep going with that instead of just trying to. I mean, too many times I've talked about it, Paul, with Liverpool. He talked about players getting branded when he tried to move players into the positions that they couldn't play in. And he tried it a few times at Celtic in his early days.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And as again, hopefully his experience makes him that, doing that, it doesn't work like that. Do you know what I mean?
I think that's one thing, Mark, that we can't say about this squad now, Mark, mostly is that we kind of have two players kind of for every position, so there should be no reason why players should be playing out of position, you know. No. I wondered, Mark, will we actually see Arasa and McGregor played together in the Brendan Rodgers team? Like
I think that's
McGregor.
I think that's where it's going to be, Paul. If it's a 4-2-3-1, he goes for. As I said, James McCarthy.
You know, never know. You know, never
Aye,
know.
I mean,
Roger
aye.
likes a bit of a kind of tough player as well, Mark, in the middle that can play in a tackle.
But
You know.
I will say aye, but I will say this, Paul. If it is Rodgers and he goes back to 4-2-3-1, we'll see the best of Cal McGregor again.
Yeah,
With
most definitely.
with a proper CDM in there beside him.
Yeah, you know, because McGregor used to get some great goals under Rodgers, Mark, didn't he? Pushing forward, didn't he? You know,
Aye.
coming in off the box there and just bang them into the team.
Where
You know?
did he go to that Calvin Miller?
Jesus, Mark, I actually don't know. Did he slip down to maybe? He didn't go to England anyway, I don't think. Did he go down to League One in Scotland or what?
The
You know?
Morton.
Do you
He's
know,
playing with
do you
Morton.
remember we were talking,
He's playing with Morton.
Morton, yeah, kind of down the lower leagues of Scotland, yeah, Jesus.
Was he not the young? He was a guy. He was a young guy that was like one of the best in the world for the year he was born or something. Wasn't it Calvin Miller?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of our young players get voted into that kind of whatever it is that the French magazine does or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Just like one thing, Mark, we were kind of critical under Rodgers at his time was the youth development. Like, do you think you kind of changing that under Rodgers? He did kind of bring in kind of youth into the Leicester team, but
Once
with the
again,
youth
Paul,
setup.
but that shouldn't be up to Rodgers.
Mm-hmm. It's up to you. Well, it
No,
was
it
kind of
should be. No, I'm
Hamilton
not
only
saying it
looking
shouldn't be
after
up
that
to.
now, though, ain't he? He's
I'm
kind
not
of
saying it
overseeing.
should be up to Rodgers. It should obviously, if I saying it, but again, it should be up to kind of the other guys that are saying, look, we need to get him involved in the first team, just to even see if he can hack it. Do you know what I mean? We need to sort out the wheat for the chaff kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So youth development and that's all got to be took out of the Hornsey managers, Paul, because people keep saying in 2 years' time, if Rodgers isn't there, the youth development can't grind to a halt because it's been his plan and what we've been using. It's got to be the club's plan.
Mm-hmm. And isn't the lad kind of Hamill, Mark? What's his role again? That's after he's overseeing the coaching side of youth levels, is it? Or?
I'm not sure. I'm not really 100% sure. I just take it maybe be like, what would you call it? A kind of the main.
But
No,
this
no,
was more kind of a
no, that
Scottish
boss, maybe a
FA team,
kind of.
Mark, that they
Aye,
wanted
they
him out
brought.
from contest.
Aye. Every club in Scotland, or at least in the top league, needs to bring this kind of this person, this job into their club over the next season or so. So I'm not really 100% sure what it's going to entail, Paul, because I've never really heard it before.
No, it's kind of a new role that was, as you said,
Aye.
Derek, that was brought up by the Scottish. He's like overseeing the coaches, Mark, and kind of youth players. Then he's going to be reporting back to
And maybe
McCarthy.
it's just like like a kind of central focus, like the buffer between the manager and all the coaches or something like that. I don't know.
Do you think it'd be there pretty soon, Mark, or a lot of fans? There's a few fans kind of getting worried that they thought the deal would kind of be done and dusted by now, but I don't think, Mark, you can have kind of similarities between this and the Eddie Howe situation. I think the deal is practically done.
I think so.
Seems to be just
Picking between the lines on the rumours and that, Paul, I think it maybe be like Friday, the end of the week, that there'll be something official.
Interesting times, Mark. Interesting times. I've seen some great things then, like Rangers fans let them bring back Rodgers. We've no need to worry. And I look and going, he's won the treble. He's won the million
That's
season.
That's the McGree, Paul.
Trophies. You know what I mean?
That's their hope. Do you know what I mean? Ange was that bad they were jumping about partying that he left. Ange, do you know what I mean? He was that rubbish. He was that poor a coach that they celebrated him leaving.
Yeah,
You know
being released in his last game, and that's why he jumped ship.
Aye, absolute garbage like that.
I see. I see their famous pub is closing down. Is it the Bristol Bar?
Good night, William. Thanks for joining us, mate. Good night, bud. Aye, I saw somebody put that up on Discord. Aye.
They're trying to go with the times as their club. It'll probably open next week as
The
the
Bristol
International
aye.
Limited or something like that, and buy the rights to the chairs and the Queen's picture so they can still put them up. You know?
Aye. Did you see that Jack Butland video getting into that changing room?
No?
Oh, they've done a video with
Oh, I
Butland.
did,
getting
yeah.
into- Oh. See, imagine going into sign for a football team and you've been Paul, see that dressing room? It looks like your old PE changing kits
Yeah,
from when we were
that's
at
why I was
school.
taking back the old mahogany and fucking.
Aye, a wooden bench with an old bit of fucking
He was
cushion
going in
seat
like,
stung
what
up here.
the fuck is this place?
And even my Stevie G's face when he walked into it at first.
You know?
Do you know what I mean? We're talking about modernising Celtic and that. Imagine signing for a team and walking in, that's what their dressing room looks like.
You know, I know
Where'd
affairs.
the players are that? Where'd I plug my iPhone into here and that? Because
Yeah.
you see all the dressing rooms down in England, they've all got fucking wee telly screens and iPhone sockets and all sorts of stuff round their pegs. And then you go to Ibrox and it's a bit of wood with a fucking peg nailed into it.
An extension lead. Two extension leads plugged in next to each other, you know, and a fan in the corner. You know,
but it's two wires put together and wrapped up with duct tape.
Botland fingers, Mark. Botland. That's what he's actually known as down in England. Botland fingers. Even the Manchester United fans were calling him that when they signed him on loan. Botland fingers. They were shitting themselves in case he had to play a game. You know, and this new striker that they're supposed to be signing, I forget his name. It starts with L, Lamas or something like that. He's supposed to be the next top fucking star. He scored 7 goals, Mark.
Aye, I know.
You know what I mean? My God, man. You know, like they're on about, like, what they're forgetting here, right? Is Celtic's squad, Mark, is there, right? Rodgers maybe might tweak it between maybe 2 or 3 players, right? He might be in more, all right? But they have to blend in a new team under an inexperienced coach, Mark, that hasn't really done this yet. Do you know what I mean? Up against an experienced manager in Brendan Rodgers, who's been there, done that, and he knows how to win. I think that's what you can say about Rodgers, Mark, is he's a winner.
Aye, you know? Definitely. That's what I said earlier, Paul. We know what we're going to get for him. And even, I've got no doubt if Brendan will win the league next year if Brendan Rodgers is a manager. No doubt in my mind whatsoever. Because it's even the thing about it, Paul, if a player's there that Brendan Rodgers doesn't want, they're still going to be worth a serious packet to us.
Yeah, exactly, boy, yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? It's not as if we're going to be losing anybody in the cheap or anything like that. And I would probably say as well, Paul, that I'm 100% certain that we'll come out of this transfer window even stronger than we were like at the end of the season under Rodgers, because I think there will be some serious investment in the squad.
Well, like, one thing, Mark, that I think if Brendan Rodgers wants Celtic to go to this next level, right? If he wants this Celtic ambition in Europe and he wants the club to match, I think what Brendan needs to do as well, Mark, is that he can't go toe to toe with the big teams. You know, like we see.
He's obviously learned that and changed his thing.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, with Leicester,
done that with
you hope,
Leicester,
Mark, that he brings that to. But that's what I'm saying. That with him tweaking his formations, Mark, at Leicester through the opposition, that we'll actually see this join Europe as well. At Celtic, like I think it's a big benefit to us, Mark, that we actually don't have the qualifiers this year, and we're actually going straight into the group stages, and you know.
I feel like that's a positive, Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know everything? You don't get the qualifiers to play. I mean, even none today with even the actual Champions League and the money side of things, but just not to get the kind of games as early in your season. Yeah. That's a big plus.
And next season as well, Mark, I think is. You get into the group stages as well.
Aye, and it's that new format as well next season. So that's for me, that's really important for us to get that.
Yeah, definitely. You know, exciting times, Mark. I think to be a Celtic fan again. You know, there was a bit of worry last week when when Ange left, but if you look who we're bringing in, it's I think Ange's memory is kind of gone out the window and onto a new era under Brendan Rodgers.
Well, it looks like it. And well, hopefully Rodgers, as we said, Paul, he's learned his lesson. He's come here. I mean, used to, like, even Ange used to talk about like legacies and stuff like that. Rodgers tarnished his. So hopefully he sees this as a chance to repair that kind of damage. And I don't.
I think that's what
it would really takes. I mean, I know
you said there with a go, Mark. Like Rodgers sees unfinished business at Celtic. I mean, he wants to build up his reputation again with the Celtic fans and the club. He's always proclaimed he's been a Celtic fan. You know what I mean? And he's come back, Mark. And the only man to me that would come back a third time would be Neil Lennon. Do you know what I mean?
But see, as I said, as long as all Celtic should do is, if you leave us during the season, the compensation's £20 million. Something crazy. Do you get what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
That no club's really going to pay, but I honestly don't see him jumping ship like that again. I really don't. It would take some. I know he's a bit of an egomaniac and that, but no, I don't think so. I really don't see Rodgers.
Not after getting a second bite of the cherry, Mark. Do you know what I mean? I don't.
No. And again, Paul, he done it, and the grass isn't always greener. Do you know what I mean? Supposing in 2 year time, I don't know, say somebody like a Southampton get promoted again, or even Leeds get promoted again in 2 or 3 year time, and they come back in for Rodgers. I'd like to think that we're talking about his experience and maturity now, Paul. I'd like to think he'd be like, well, wait now. I get down there. But I've said, but Ange jumped ship, but I'm getting down there. I've got a year, 18 months at the most, and if I've not done X, I'm out the door. Whereas at Celtic, I'm getting back with the board, I'm getting everything I want. Hopefully we're doing well in Europe, so why go and jump ship to just for another kind of payday and another relegation battle and the hatred you get for getting a team? Do you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like just what Betsy is saying there, Rodgers seems to have sought to cast down guarantees from Celtic. Do you know what I mean, Mark? He's laid on the law, didn't he? What he wants.
Aye.
They're giving it to him. They're giving him the tools. It's up to Rodgers to deliver. You know, that's all about it. I'm just excited, Mark. Like with the players we have, you know what I mean? Like we just for say here, Mark. You know what I mean? Like I know we signed this lad here now from Norway, but there was obviously targets that Ange wanted. Are those targets now stopped, and maybe they might show him to Rodgers, or he might have his own targets?
Hoggy, what are you on about now? What are you actually talking about, pal?
Who?
How many, that Hoggy boy, how many times did I say I'd like to think, and what if, and maybe? Mate, I'm not letting you on to talk if you can't even listen to what we're saying. Get me on the panel. You're not even listening to what we're actually saying. You're just actually trolling, talking absolute shite, son. Sorry, Paul.
Yeah. I don't look. We can't say that, no, Mark. We can't be thinking like that, no, that Rodgers will jump ship at the fuss.
No, that's what I said. I'd like to think he's maybe learned his lesson. So I didn't say that Rodgers will stay. I said I'd like to think that he would learn his lesson and the grass isn't always greener at mid-level EPL league clubs.
You know,
it's as simple as that.
It was true what Gordon Strachan said, Mark. Gordon Strachan said it.
Hoggy, you're saying that, and I'm saying something different. So that's it. It's a difference of opinion, and I wasn't even getting an opinion. I was just hoping that maybe it was right. Maybe he would think that things were different this time.
You know, I think what Gordon Strachan said, Mark, there, he said in an interview there a couple of weeks ago, he says the lifespan now of a manager is max, he says, is about 3 years at a club. You know,
but it depends what's happening at the club, Paul.
Exactly, Mark.
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Yeah, you know, who's to know, Mark?
Well, look at
if we're making progress in York, Mark, and he's getting the backing that he wants. Do you mean, is there any reason for?
I mean, how long's that?
To jump ship again? Like, we don't know. You know,
how long's that Knutson been at Bodo Glimt for?
Been there.
How long's Klopp been at Liverpool for? How long's
Exactly.
Arteta been at Arsenal for?
You know.
So, I mean, the
Exactly.
managers do stay if they're getting backed and they're reaching the levels and their ambitions getting back.
You know.
If
Who's
Celtic's
to
about,
say,
if
Mark, in a
Celtic,
few
if
years'
Cel,
time, Mark, they might be another Super League? Who's to say that?
if Celtic's building a team, right? If Celtic's building a team under Rodgers, it's doing what we consider well in Europe, right? Getting into the latter stages of European competitions after Christmas and stuff like that. Why would they get down to a team in England that's not even get European fit, but just because it's a team down in England? Look at it that way. There's a million different ways to think of things. And Rodgers, like the Celtic fans that have been stung once before with him jumping ship, I'm just saying, I'd like to think that if the chance comes up again, he would look at it and say, well, look what happened the last time I went down there. It didn't work out the way I wanted, whereas I'm getting the backing up here. Everything up here's rosy. I'm asking for this player, I'm getting him. I'm asking for this done behind the scenes, and I'm getting it. Why would I leave this now?
That's what I think. What Kieran is saying there, Mark. He gave us 3 years as a contract, and we'll see then after that. You know.
Aye,
You know.
and that's
If
fair enough.
You know.
Money, but money, Hoggy. Brendan Rodgers didn't need money. Brendan, I mean, let's face it. Ange bank account wouldn't even peels into
I say Rodgers
significance
got
when
a
you look
nice
at the money.
payoff off Leicester. I say. You know.
So it's not all about money when you get that kind. If it was all about money, would Messi not have went to Saudi Arabia or in America? But look what he's getting. Look at what else he's getting here in America. A chance to get a franchise when he retires and stuff like that. So money's not always. If money's not going to be all and end all, Scott Brown turned in money. Aye.
Messi's deal with Miami.
And Miami getting a chance to own
And
his
there
own
was another
franchise
rumour
and
as well,
stuff.
Mark, going around of Messi has such a dislike for Manchester United because of the Ronaldo connection, right? This is what I heard, right? That was one of the reasons Phil Neville got the sack as well from Miami, from David Beckham's team. That Messi was coming in, he didn't want to work under Phil Neville. I know results were bad, but Messi as well, suppose he didn't want to work with him. You know? That's just the pull that man has, like, isn't it?
Aye.
You know, some contractor he's after getting there, man, isn't he?
And you can't fault players for taking that. Do you know what I mean? It's just absolutely. I mean, the money they've got is absolutely life changing. But that, I mean,
Saudi Arabia seems to be the new kind of hub, no, Mark, don't it? You know.
But I think, honestly, America, the next 10 years, that America is going to become probably one of the best and biggest leagues in the world.
It'd be like the Eurovision. We'd be inviting American teams to play in the Champions League, like Australia and the Eurovision.
No, but it might end. That might be a kind of thing, Paul, for a kind of World Super League, maybe.
But is that what they were kind of? What was that? What he was kind of hinting at, Mark? Was it like a Club World Cup there the last time?
I was talking about stuff like that, but I mean, when you look at, America, eventually, it's starting to click. Messi's going to be massive when he goes there. Do you get what I mean? That's going to attract a lot of attention here. And I mean, the American national team's a good national team as well. And it's just a matter of time before, like, they call it soccer, but before football clicks over there, Paul, and America will be, for a simple reason, Paul, the amount of people that are in the place, and the amount of different cultures and stuff like that, they're just, eventually it's going to just explode over there, I think. And that's when America will become like a serious contender in the world stage.
Isn't Paris Saint-Germain a prime example, Mark, in money can't buy everything in football? You know, a club that just goes out and buys players for the sake of it and just doesn't click. You know what I mean? How many attempts have they tried to win the Champions League since then?
How many attempts did Man City have?
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? That's it. Man City winning that. That's the ultimate kind of death. It's a kind of death, really. That's the kind of.
I think, Mark, and I said it to you, I think they could have won that years ago only for Pep. You know, overthinking his fucking formation.
Barcelona, aye.
Yeah, changing stuff. Fucking like sometimes you look at
Yeah,
Pep
I mean,
Guardiola's team, you're looking at what in them guys he doing. You
but I
know?
mean, that's how it really became, Paul. Just a kind of all these Saudi princes or sheikhs or whatever. It's just became a plaything for them.
Is that
And
something?
Newcastle will be the next one. They'll be
Yeah,
Newcastle will win the Champions League probably in the next 10 years.
yeah. I think this is the stepping stone for them now, Mark, that they're in the Champions League this year.
Aye,
They're
aye.
actually in there faster than they actually thought.
So aye.
So they can bring in the top caliber players now. You know?
And which does show you that how is a decent coach.
Yeah.
A
I actually
manager,
think,
whatever you
Mark,
want to.
that's I think no, I think that's another Champions League spot gone in down in England between Newcastle and Manchester City. You know, and the rest of them are there to fight for the other two places, like Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, Chelsea. I think they're in for the rest because you can nearly guarantee no Mark, that Newcastle are going to bring in a good caliber player. You know what I mean?
Aye.
You know?
I can't, Paul, I can't see Spurs getting into the Champions League in the next anytime soon. When you talk about the teams I mean, they're even if Man United gets Tuchel as well, that's going to put them
Here's the
into
question
back
to
in
you,
their
right? Here's the
stratosphere.
question to you, right? And I hate bringing up Ange now that he's gone and stuff like that, but Ange likes the press, all right? Likes his forwards to press, Mark. There, he's first line defence. Where does Harry Kane fit into that press?
Harry Kane won't be there, Paul.
You know, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think Harry
No.
Kane is that. Does he look like an Ange player to you?
No,
You know,
definitely no. I mean, I think he was for the off anyway, but I think he's either going to Real Madrid or Man United, isn't it?
mm-hmm.
Probably Real Madrid to replace Benzema.
Yeah,
I can't.
especially.
I can't, and I'll say this to now as well. I can't see Ange signing Kyogo to replace Harry Kane.
I
Said
said he'd
that
be
to you
up
all
road
along
down the Mark,
either.
right?
Aye.
You know, I really would. I don't know, Mark. I personally, for me, I think I wouldn't think the board would do it. Let Ange take our top goal scorer anyway. You know,
Unless the
like
price,
we saw that time with Edward,
was
didn't
right.
we?
Unless the price was right, Paul, and there's a wee tax on top it because he's going to a team that Ange is it.
Do you remember that time? Do you remember the Brendan Rodgers tax we called it? Do you remember that when he came in for Edward, wasn't it? He came in for Edward, didn't he? Brendan Rodgers at
Aye.
Leicester. And they chew on the Brendan Rodgers tax because he was coming back into,
Aye, Paul, teams do that. That's quite a common thing.
you know.
That is quite a common thing because a manager's coming in for. Aye, that's quite a common thing that the price is bumped up. It's just like I keep saying about like it's like that Kevin Nisbet went to Millwall for $2 million plus add-ons. But if Celtic went in, if Celtic went in for Kevin Nisbet, it would be $3 million plus add-ons for the simple reason that 2 years down the line, Kevin Nisbet could score the goal that puts Hibs out of a cup or do you know what I mean? If you're selling to a rival, there's a bit of a tax on it. And if you're selling to somebody that's done you a bit of a snidey turn, you put a bit of a tax on it.
Mm-hmm.
So
I'm actually.
if they get £100 million for Harry Kane, we should be at least looking for what 30 million for Kyogo.
And why not, Mark? You know what I mean? Actually,
Because they wouldn't pay it, Paul. Let's be honest. I don't think it would pay it. But you could definitely get 25 million for Kyogo.
yeah. You know what I mean? 30 goal
And
season striker, Mark.
and let's not be kidding. That's a hell of a lot of money to Celtic, but it's no a lot of money to these teams down in England. I mean, they're Nottingham Forest, that boy, Paul. 31-year-old. He scored
Chris Wood, yeah.
6 goals in 4 years or something like that, and they spent £15 million on him.
Yeah. But that's the problem, Mark. That's down that Premier League. You know what I mean? You know?
Aye, money's nothing to them. So I think we could easily get 25 million at a push for Kyogo. 75 million.
Jeez, I say,
Right, Hoggy, you're on transfer negotiations in future.
Fucking hell, I say it'd be a long time by when Celtic I call it the idiot tax. If you're doing a job for the pain of the ass, yeah, that's it. That's exactly it, Mark. Isn't it? An idiot tax. You know,
Aye.
I'm actually more curious, Mark, who uh, Brendan Rodgers is going to bring in, player wise and backroom staff. You know, really am. Yeah, I'd be very surprised if it's Scott Brown. I would think it could be more maybe Torre.
Well,
You know,
he get sacked for Wigan, didn't he?
he got
So he's
sacked.
available. Is that
Yeah.
who's that? David? What's that? David Stain, Paul?
Not at the moment, Mark. No, nothing. But I
Nothing.
think he kind of the way I was kind of reading down the lines of the news there was kind of he wants to kind of make his own mark now. You know, start down kind of lower leagues and kind of make himself up. But you never know, Mark. He might come back with Rodgers. You never know. He's been at Rodgers since the Swansea days, I think. You know what I mean? So he's been at Rodgers for a long, long time.
Aye.
You know. You know. So
As I said earlier, I mean, financial wise, I don't think the Fleetwood manager job would compare with even being a coach at Celtic, assistant manager. And again, if that's who Rodgers wants, Paul, I'm happy enough with that.
I'd be grand with Scott Brown come back, Mark. He knows the way Rodgers plays. You know what I mean? They had a good relationship together, the two of them. You know what I mean? It'll only be a benefit to Celtic, I think, if Scott Brown like to have another head in the dressing room, Mark, as a coaching role. Who knows what Celtic is? It's only a benefit to the club. You know, like one thing I wanted to ask you now is James Forrest, Mark. I know his testimonials in August is should be
I
gone
can't.
now. This
No,
is
I
his
can't.
last season.
I can't. I don't think you can give a guy a testimonial and then and move him on, Paul, in the same
You know,
month.
you know. So say he's there for another year or so. Forrest,
I think he's got to be here for another year. Aye, definitely.
you know, 32, 32. No, like I don't really think, Mark, there's an actually another position that James Forrest can actually play. Like, is there? You know, he can. I don't see him kind of
Oh,
moving in most
moving into the
centrally.
middle. Aye, no,
You know,
no.
you know. I
See,
don't. I don't.
see the only this might sound a bit crazy, Paul. It would probably even be covering it right back.
True. Fucking hell, but you'd be shitting yourself for him at right back, would
No,
you?
but see, like maybe I'm just talking about as an emergency kind of cover. But I mean, just no pushing for, no attacking fullback, but just covering it. Do you get what I mean? In an emergency, if there's been a sending over an injury or something like that, he could probably cover it there. But I couldn't see him doing much else in a Celtic team.
Uh-huh. And says Kennedy basically runs training. He'd be missed more than we think. In that kind of role of kind of every assistant manager now, Mark, in Rod,
Aye,
all that they kind of run training. I don't know.
aye.
I reading between the lines, Mark. I think Kennedy could actually go. I think if Ange wants him, Mark, and if that's the backroom staff he wants, I think Spurs will come in with an offer to Celtic. You know, but I think reading between the lines, I think Celtic are kind of playing hard to guess, aren't they? With Kennedy, aren't they?
Aye,
You
but
know,
they're entitled to do that.
yeah, without doubt, yeah. You know, you know.
Aye, just again, get just if people want employees, whether it's players, managers, coaches, whatever, they need to pay the top dollar to get them.
You know,
But
say
I
what
do
did we
think
get
it's
that time, Mark? When Rodgers, when Leicester,
oh,
we got 10 million, Mark, didn't we, for the whole
well,
lot, didn't we?
no, it was about 12 million for the whole lot, Paul.
Yeah, yeah. You know,
That's like close to British. That's like close to Scottish transfer records. Do you know what I mean when you're talking about like even players? That's close to a record, and that's for one of our managers and coaches.
I think there was two coaches. I think that as well that kind of they kind of follow Rodgers every Mark. They came to him as they came with him to Celtic there, and they were at Leicester with him, and they were at Liverpool with him as well. I don't think they were at Swansea, but 2 seconds till I get their names. one fella's name was Lyons anyway, I think. He was with us. He was kind of strength and conditioning coach, Mark, was when he was at Celtic, I think.
Right.
And he kind of jumped ship as well with Rodgers. I forget the other fella's name. You know, I don't know.
But that's just off part. We spoke about with Mikey the other week, Paul, and the amount of people that they've got as these kind of backroom staff, so these like top managers. Do you know what I mean? They're bringing in. I mean, it's like.
Well, Mark, I'm always in favour of a manager bringing in his own people as well. Like I'm in. Like if
Rodgers
doesn't want Kennedy there, Mark, what you know what I mean? I'm in favour.
Aye.
You know.
It's a trust thing.
You know.
Rodgers has worked with Kennedy. So he might want him there. He likes him, and might try to talk him into staying. If he doesn't want to be here, he'll go to Spurs with Ange or whatever, and Rodgers will bring his own guy in. But I mean, it was even doing to mind with Ronnie when he put forced kind of John Collins on him and stuff like that. That's never right to do that.
No.
Even Ange, I said at the time, you can see back to the kind of continuity of the club and stuff like that. You can see why certain members of staff need to be part of the backroom staff, but when a new manager comes in, he should be allowed to at least pick his own assistant manager. Do you know what I mean? His own number two. You can't force an assistant on somebody. I don't think.
No,
because there's got to be a kind of personal connection. Do you know what I mean? It can't just be a professional. They've got to trust each other. There's got to be a connection between them on that kind of level.
Mm-hmm. Great chat, lads. I'm off. Looking forward to the next one. Paul, the two guys in clothes. No, Davis isn't coming back. I'll get their names there now, Mark. I'll find them.
Hey, cheers, Kizo. Thanks very much for listening, bud. Nice to see you. That's me, Kizo, for the forum, Paul. Kieran.
All right. Is your buddy, is it?
No, it's just his name's Kizo on the forum. I wasn't sure who it was.
I know the name.
Aye.
There's one of your buddies on Discord as well with a similar name. Is this Kaiser? No, not Kaiser. Is that?
That's that wee nutter fella. That's Kaiser.
Kaiser. What their names are? Yeah, Lyons was the first fella, Mark. He was his analysis advisor, Mark. He used to scout the opposition, and then he kind of started strength and conditioning, and he was. So he's one fella, the fella Lyons, and the next fella is Jack Lyons is one, and not John McGinn. Fuck is the other fella? I can't get the other fella's name, Mark.
In fact, they kind of
Glenn O'Driscoll.
Aye.
Glenn O'Driscoll, Mark.
Evening, Patrick. Thanks very much for joining me. Nice to see you in.
Lyons and Glenn O'Driscoll, Mark, two fellas that have been with Rodgers, kind of stuck with him, Mark, to when he moved different clubs. The fella Glenn O'Driscoll is the strength and conditioning, Mark. He was in charge of our strength and conditioning when he was at Celtic, and the fella Lyons then was kind of the scouting analysis fella who kind of looked at Brendan Rodgers' opposition and kind of did reports on teams back to Rodgers, and then he stepped into a role then, Mark, of developing players, and he was the fella supposedly. The fella Lyons was kind of the one that had Madison improve his career. You know?
Right. You know, just as long as this guy's at Rodgers trusts and wants to bring in, Paul.
Yeah. But I think, Mark, that's one thing, Mark, we're going to see under Rodgers, Mark, is these departments. Like we saw them under Ange, Mark. We saw when Ange came in, and like we kind of had these similar departments when Rodgers was there. He wanted to build in them, and just the club as a whole, Mark, we just didn't progress under Rodgers. You know, and then we started seeing teams improving under Ange in these departments, or scouting system, or sports and conditioning. And I mean, Rodgers wants to improve that more, and I think that's one. The best things, Mark, is about bringing back Brendan Rodgers, Mark, is he's going to bring back these Premier League standards, Mark.
A higher level. Like a kind of level of excellence. That's exactly
Celtic Football Club, Mark, shouldn't be never going back to noughties of football. Do you know what I mean? Like,
No,
not
Celtic
being
should have the best.
interested in data and stuff like that. Like, you know.
Celtic should have the best facilities in Scotland, Paul. For a simple reason, we've got the most money in Scotland, so we should have the best everything. For the best
Do you
manager, the
think
best
so?
players, the best
You know,
training
like,
facilities, the best
you know,
everything.
these rumours, Mark, like we heard kind of when that Dermot Desmond offered to Ange, like improve Borough and put the arena dome that kind of Brendan Rodgers wanted that time, that they were offering that and upgrade Lennoxtown stuff. Do you think those things are still on the table for Brendan Rodgers, that they'll upgrade everything in the training facilities as well? You
Well,
know?
again, Paul, I'd like to think that's part of his demands.
Yeah.
That he's going to get the backing for. I brought up that air dome thing that he wanted, and mate, there was even. I mean, it cost a hell of a lot of money, but that thing we were talking about in the forum earlier, that thing that Dortmund used, the auto ball thing. Do you know what I'm talking about? The thing that fires the balls at the players and have to catch the control the ball and put it back through wherever it lights up.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Rodgers was meant to be wanting one of them. I mean, it's a hell of a lot of money, but it's a proven kind of investment to help improve players.
Should all the top clubs, Mark, I say, have it, you know?
Aye, all these that's. I'd like to think again that if Rodgers is coming back, he's making demands that look. I want to take not just the team. I want to take the club to the next level. We need improvements with the training facilities. We need this. We need this. We need improvements in the sports science. We need this improvements on such and such, and let them have these kind of inputs to bring us up to this kind of Champions League level of club instead of pretending that we're just in the level because we qualify for it every now and again.
One thing I hope we don't let Brendan Rodgers do, Mark, is recommend the pitch. You know, that pitch was just poison, Mark, since day one. Since we laid it down, Mark. You know.
And it's never really recovered for that, really, isn't it?
From that first time, Mark, it never did. Mark. You know, don't let me out the land because what I'm after doing to my back garden, but I think there's no fucking hope for my back garden anymore. But I did till I don't know what I'm after doing to it, because it just doesn't look right. You know, you know, I shouldn't even be doing the garden, anyway, Mark. You know what I mean? You know.
No. Do you think this time, if the board do start backtracking promises given, that Rodgers will be more vocal with the fans if this happens? Because I see because there's always a kind of thing about no talking out of school and stuff that managers kind of stick by, even down to the way Ange kind of treated the media. But if it came to the crunch and Rodgers had to leave again because he wasn't getting the backing the way you felt before, I'd like to think he would just come blatantly out and say it without tiptoeing round the tulips a bit. Because to get him back, there's got to have been made assurances, there's got to be promises made. Do you know what I mean? If it blows up again in the face.
We've seen him, Mark, I think what we've seen from Nicholson, Mark, is he backed Ange, Mark. You can't say Ange left Mark because he wasn't getting back. No, you can't say. And I would like to see the same backing and assurance given to what we're hearing from Desmond and the media, Mark, that Rodgers does get the backing that he asks for. You know, I think it's going to be the biggest budget, Mark, that any Celtic manager will get. Since Barton O'Neill's time, Mark, will be the biggest budget any manager will get. You know?
Probably, aye. But as I said earlier on, Paul, just for the simple fact that Rodgers is considering it, he's got to have had these kind of assurances.
Yeah.
So, I mean, instead of moaning about Ange leaving, why look at it that way and think, well, the reasons Rodgers left was he wasn't getting the back for the board. He was moaning about transfers, didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. So if he's had these assurances that this stuff's going to happen and he's getting this training facilities and all sorts of stuff promised to him, if that's all part of it, it's only going to be a good thing for Celtic, us as Celtic fans going forward.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not going to come in and have these kind of assurances that there's going to be deals done behind his back, our players and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. The board didn't back Brendan Rodgers because they heard he was actively looking away out long before Leicester. Could be, Mark. I don't know. I didn't know that.
But again, back to why was he no back? Why was he looking for a way out? Because he wasn't getting the backing. It's a vicious circle.
You know.
I mean, as you said, Paul, Ange didn't leave because he wasn't getting backed.
No. I actually, Mark, do you know what? Looking back at that, Mark, I knew Ange was going to go, Mark, but I didn't think it'd be so soon. You know what I mean? I didn't
I
think
still would have got another year out of Ange, Paul.
Yeah, and
I think that's what a lot of people were a bit disappointed in.
I would have liked to see in Europe, Mark, another season on the Ange, Mark, but look, it is what it is, and
aye,
there's no point in looking back to the past, and just look to the future. And I think the future is Rodgers, and it's interesting to see how,
be positive about it.
Rangers fans all saying they send a shiver down their back. Rodgers coming back. I think so. Yeah, I think, Mark, they know it.
But bringing back an elite level manager, Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, Rodgers could have got a job down in England if, I don't know, right, meant to be Spurs spoke to him, right? But other teams, if he just bided his time, he would get another job down in England and not even league in the Championship.
Leeds put in a late bid, Mark, to hijack the Celtic.
He's always fancied managing in Spain. If he'd held off a bit longer, could have got a job up there. But that's all just what ifs. If he's coming back to Celtic, for us, that's all it should matter. And whether he's here for 2 years or 3 years, 5 years, whatever, we just need to get behind him. And as I said, Paul, I'm still not 100% behind. Do you get what I mean? As I said, my head said aye, but my heart's not quite convinced yet.
But he's going to get asked that question, Mark, in his first interview by the media up in Scotland. Why did he jump ship last time? Like, I mean, what do you think Rodgers going to say about that? Do you know what I mean? Leicester's a lovely club, and Jamie Vardy was a lovely person, and he wants, it'd be interesting to see what he's going, because for a fact, Mark, he's going to get asked that question.
He's probably rehearsed that a million times on his head. Do you know what I mean? Thinking about it, just I don't know. He could be honest. He could bat it away, come out with some wee kind of quippy Gordon Stratton kind of answer or whatever. But I definitely agree. He is going to get asked it, and it'll be interesting to see how he does. He does come back to that.
We're all raging the way he left when it's confirmed. That's. I think no one was happy the way he left back then. Like, you know what I mean? I think if he was stayed, Mark, we would have easily done the 10 in a row. You know what I mean? Easily. You know what I mean? No one's, but out of the people that's there, Mark, who have been linked to, Rodgers would have been my first pick out of the lot of them, I think. And I think the rest of them are too much for gamble. As a club, Mark, you get as Celtic fan, and no matter who the manager is, you're going to give him your backing. You know what I mean?
Aye. You're JFP, even in JFP, hope you're doing all right, bud. They bolted and lied and was humiliated in Europe. Feel good factor replaced by a manager who split support. Depressing times.
Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I mean, we know JFP well. He's been on the podcast and he'll be joining again shortly. But is it back to the thing, Paul? We've got to just have this kind of view that right, we've got. If it is Brendan Rodgers, we're going to get 3 years out of maximum.
You can't say 10 in a row was a stick. Jesus Christ, has he agree with anything we said all night? I'm not like. I would say like we would have had a much better chance if Brendan Rodgers was there to win that 10 in a row.
We'd made a chance under Rodgers, we would have under Lennon.
I would have said we'd have had a decent chance, Mark, getting that 10 in a row if Brendan Rodgers was there.
Aye. And even if it wasn't, it was none of even with Rodgers being there. It was a choice of manager to follow Rodgers. That's what messed it up.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Even Peter Lawwell came out and says that he never even had a list or a folder of names in his drawer that he hadn't even looked at. That's a dereliction of duty. For me, I've said that at the time. For me, as a CEO of a company, not even a football club, Paul, as a company the size of Celtic, for the CEO not even look at the applicants for a job at that kind of management level is a dereliction of duty to Peter Lawwell and the board at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And see there, Jabber saying I'd be happy with 2 good years. That's what my head tells me. And see if that's going to be the way forward. I sound like a broken record about it. That's one of the reasons that we need to get a director of football in.
True, Mark. I think, Mark, I think that's the way. Is that the way Celtic Football Club are now, Mark? 2-3 years the manager's going, but then you're changing cycle, Mark. You're changing the direction of the club all the time, as you said. If we had, it's a must. We need a director of football, Mark. That the structure of the club stays the same, and they hire a manager, Mark, that's suited to the way Celtic want to play football.
Aye.
You know?
It's got to be. I mean, Ange's proven, Paul, that we can't really trust even these kind of young he's not young, but an up and coming coach. I mean, we all saw him thought Ange did it brilliant out here. Everything he wanted, managing Celtic, but he's away. So if we can't keep a hold of a guy like Ange, even at that stage of his career, if it's going to be just a 2 or 3 year cycle of a manager, then we've got to build the structure of the club behind the scenes better and have a director of football that's controlling the long game, the long plan. And as I said earlier about the Norwegian boy that we're signing, that for me, that's nothing to do with whoever the Celtic manager's going to be. That's like the likes of Mark Lowell and the football department said, look, this is a player that he ticks all the boxes for Celtic. It doesn't matter who the manager is. The manager needs to get. The manager will work around the certain players that we bring into the club, and that's the way it's got to be. Look at Ajax.
Isn't that the way the Rodgers worked on the Leicester, Mark? Isn't it that they were signing players? I mean, that's where.
I mean, people said about Celtic, Rodgers couldn't work under a director of football, but he left Celtic for Leicester, and they had the same director of football they've had for about, I think it's about 8 years or something like that.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, these these clubs in the bigger leagues, the more richer leagues, they're all run like that, Paul, with directors of football and that.
But why do you think, Mark,
Chelsea, they just chop and change managers.
Why do you think, Mark, Celtic didn't go down that? Like, there was talks about it before, Mark.
Fergal Harkin, wasn't it?
Yeah, Fergal Harkin, and when we were kind of approaching Eddie Howe, he wanted to bring his director of football. There were the rumours that he wanted to bring his director of football. He had a Bournemouth with him and stuff like that. I mean, why don't we have a director of football? You know what I mean? You know, I know Harkin has gone from the City Group now as well, don't he?
He was at that team Ronnie was at before he went to Club Brugge. No, that's who Ronnie went to. Was it Standard Liège that he was with, and he went to Club Brugge.
Yeah, is Harkin with Bruges now, was he?
No, he's still with the last team that Ronnie was at. The
Standard Liège, is it?
I think that's who it is. But
because there was talks that I don't know how true they were at that time. That thinking McCoy started getting involved there with Harkin, Mark, and Harkin kind of walked away from the talks after McCoy got involved then, isn't this? You know, is Lord the director of football?
I'm just going to say that a few
people
have
you know what, Mark? I actually nearly think he is, Mark. Is he? It's rather than kind of the chief scout role, Mark. Does he seem to be?
See, that's the thing.
Operations.
Many times that we talk about that, Paul, and I say it's all you could call it a sporting director, you can call it head of development, or it's just a kind of job title. But see, the more and more things are happening, I think that is Baby Lil that's kind of taking on that role.
Mm-hmm.
And people might think that's nepotism, down to who his dad and that is, but I've not got a problem with that, because he's more than, for what I know of the role, for what I know of him, he's more than qualified to do that.
He's come from one of the best groups in football.
Exactly.
He could have easily, Mark. He could have easily went down the easy route and came to Celtic and launched his trade under Celtic and built up his role through his dad, Mark, at Celtic. Do you know? But he didn't,
Aye.
Mark. He went out and launched his trade at Man City group. And I say, Mark, it wouldn't have been easy either, Mark, to get into that Man City group, I say. You know?
Oh, obviously you're qualified to do your job if you're working for Man City. Do you know what I mean? They're no kind of hiding down there. If you're not the top of the tree, you're out the door. That's the kind of pinnacle. Do you know what I mean? So he was obviously well qualified for the job he's doing. So
Hoggy saying, "Baby Lord, for fuck's sake!" I think we call what do we call Gavin Strachan? We got we Gavin Strachan, is it?
We Gavin Stratton or Baby Stratton.
Yeah, you know he's supposed to be off as well, Mark. Don't he? He's kind of wants, you know.
But again, if he wants to go, he can go.
I don't know what, Mark. It just wouldn't bother me, Mark, if they went. You know what I mean? It wouldn't, because I know Brendan Rodgers will bring in his players for because this fella Lyons, Mark, that he wants to that kind of followed him all over thing is kind of similar to the role that Gavin Stratton is doing at Celtic now. Do you know what I mean? The data analysis and stuff like that.
The thing about it is, Paul, if Stratton does go or whatever, between Rodgers, Lyle, and whoever, and even advertising it, we'll get another top analysis guy in.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? It's just, again, Rodgers will know somebody, or Mark Lyle will know somebody, or they'll know somebody, and they'll get it out there and bring in the best that Celtic can bring in.
Yeah, JFP saying we have current players that don't know if they'll be part of the manager's plans and could be signing players the new manager fancies, which is a problem for Rodgers. I don't know, Mark. Yeah, I think there could be a lot of players, Mark, in this current team that maybe, as you said, Mark, like Rodgers. We'd be fools, Mark, to think Rodgers doesn't know this Celtic team. Do you know what I mean? You know, he's been watching Celtic back in April, Mark. He was in the stands and stuff like that, watching. You know what I mean? I think, Mark. Do you think maybe Celtic maybe got? I said it last week when Mikey was on with us, Mark. Do you think Celtic knew by then that there was talks going on between Ange and Spurs? And is it a coincidence? I know I'm just throwing stuff. Is it a coincidence that Rodgers was actually there testing the water with the Celtic fans? How he'll be welcome back at Celtic?
It was hard to say, isn't it, after what Beale done with Van Bronckhorst?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, after him turning up to their game, but I mean, did they ever really understand the kind of shenanigans and skullduggery that's on behind the scenes when it comes to
because I knew anyway, Mark, that
money, Paul. Do you know what I mean?
There was always kind of still a relationship between Desmond and Rodgers after he left. Like the dust kind of settled down between the two of them, didn't it?
They never fell out, really.
Yeah.
Rodgers and Dermot Desmond never really fell out.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like if you've known somebody for years, Paul, they're a good friend of your family and stuff like that. And when it comes to, as a business, would you fall out with somebody else doing something like that? Do you know what I mean? Rodgers and Dermot Desmond were close pals long before he became Celtic manager. As I said, like Peter Lyle and his family were out at Brendan Rodgers' holiday home in Spain or whatever it was, not that long ago and stuff like that. So it's hard to, if you're not involved in that kind of lovely stuff, it's hard to understand how personal you would take, like Rodgers walking out or Ange walking out.
Yeah, I like a lot of people are saying there like that in 2-3 windows time, Mark, a lot of these players won't be there. I can never know, Mark. Right? Rodgers could dismantle this.
But that's just maybe
this transfer window, man.
But maybe that's just the progression of the team.
You know, like Ange always said, Mark, we kind of didn't know he was talking about himself. Like, you know what I mean? Don't get too close to your favorite players. Do you know what I mean? You know, we didn't know that Ange was actually talking about himself in the dressing room. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. But I mean,
You know?
and say right, just even your first 11, most of the players. If you're bringing in 2 or 3 players every season, well, your team's going to be totally changed in the next 3 wins. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with that. What Martin said, a lot of players in the corner, they'll not be there in 3 windows' time.
Mm-hmm. I heard as well actually that Sporting Lisbon were kind of looking at Jota. They were kind of sniffing around Jota. They'd actually, and I know he's probably, I think his head is kind of taunt already, Mark Abada and stuff like that, going by previous rumours. But I'd like to see him and Jota on the wings under Brendan Rodgers. You know, really would. You know, there's one player I think, and he was more kind of suited to what Ange was trying to do in the press in media. I don't see, and I could be wrong, Mark. I could be wrong. We could be all wrong about players, but I actually don't see him fitting into going by what I've seen of Brendan Rodgers previously and at Leicester. I don't see him fitting into a Brendan Rodgers team. I just want to see what lads on the live chat think. Do you think Marida can fit into this Brendan Rodgers team? I don't, Mark. Do you? And I've backed Marida from the start, Mark, since he came to Celtic, and I could see why Ange was training.
He runs about, puts a lot of energy in it, team Paul.
Yeah, but I don't. But that's not. But that's not a Brendan Rodgers player, Mark, is it? Brendan Rodgers wants.
No as creative as maybe Rodgers would like for a winger.
You know, Brendan Rodgers doesn't press teams, Mark. He's more holding on to the possession football, isn't it? You know, rather than pressing, Mark. Brendan Rodgers wants to contain the possession and kind of build from there. You know, that's the way.
I know what you. I don't. Probably, see, to be honest, I used to sit and say on this, I don't see where Maeda fits into the Celtic team. Mm-hmm. But when he's not in the team, we miss him. Do you get what I mean? Aye. I mean, he's not the most skillful player. He's not going to turn tricks, but he just brings something that I think it's just the energy he brings to the team, Paul. I think that's one of the most important things. Just the way he never stops running for the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, but does that kind of play, though, Mark, stop in a Brendan Rodgers style? Do you know what I mean? You know, that running about pressing and.
Well, we speak about how we'd like to think that Rodgers has learned and grown as a manager, sir. But really, we can't judge. I mean,
maybe, Mark.
It's a difference between setting up Leicester to play against Chelsea or Man City and setting up Celtic to play up in Scotland. So hopefully,
or maybe, Mark, we could see a different.
Pragmatic.
You know, Mark, we could actually see the Mark that me and you saw on the clips, Mark, when we first signed him, Mark. You know what I mean? Maybe we could see that Maeda under Brendan Rodgers, you know.
Because he definitely wasn't like that under Ange, Paul. Let's not be kidding. Do you know what I mean?
Using his pace, Mark, because what we did see a few times, Mark, when Awasa played, he actually was picking out Maeda, putting the ball into space, and Maeda was running for that space. I mean, that's where I saw Maeda's strengths, you know.
Aye, but he's definitely not shown that for us. But as I said, it just when he's not in the team, we miss him. But I can't pinpoint what actually brings to the team. Is a kind of I mean, you're looking for Celtic spend that much time in the attacking third, Paul. You like for your player to be like kind of dominating as much, and Maeda's know that type of player.
Is there much difference? Just going by what Martin is saying here, Mark, is there much difference? Really, between Ange's style and Brendan Rodgers' style, is there much difference? Like, two of them like to hold on to the ball, Mark. I know Ange wanted to kind of move the ball a bit faster and stuff like that, but is that what Rodgers was trying to do, and then it just got a bit stale?
Again, it was people said, like, when they find out Ange wasn't Stein, was that when the team dropped off and all that? And you've got to think, if that's the kind of, if these things do affect teams at the time, Paul, Well, think how the atmosphere round about the club was in the last 6 months or so. Rodgers' last reign. Was Rodgers not really born his backside much? The players had kind of been a bit lackadaisical about their
Yeah,
approach and
because that's
stuff.
what we were saying, Mark. It was kind of more the last couple of times under Rodgers. It was kind of passing along the back, really, wasn't it? You know what I mean? Passing it back and passing it back and passing it side to side.
But again, it's maybe a lot to that to do maybe with Scott Brown controlling the tempo. Because I used to moan about that. It should have been Callum McGregor that was controlling the tempo we played at. But, I mean, Scott Brown was the main man. He was the captain. But it'll be interesting to see what players that Rodgers does actually think. I mean, I'd like to see. If he does go for a 4-2-3-1, I would like to see like McGregor and Nawata and that 2 CDM role. So I think McGregor would McGregor would get back to being more effective player.
And I think Scott Brown is effective in that role as well, Mark. I think
I think Nawata's probably. I think Nawata, you could probably see the lengthy, the kind of range he's passing in that. He'd probably even be more effective than Scott Brown that way. And for the last couple of games, you can tell he can read the game Nawata. So I think that could be a good partnership. We could see the best of McGregor again. Because I do think, I've said it all along, Paul, I think he gets held back in that CDM role.
No, we're not dissing Brownie.
No, dissing Brownie, no.
We've missed a player of Brownie's calibre in this. I think that's the one player, Mark, that we lacked in an Ange football was a Brownie type player. And is Zawata that player, Mark? Like we've tried so many players, Mark, actually to replace Brown. Like we all thought that when Zorro was going to be that, but he just came.
I don't think he's a kind of. I don't think he's a kind of. It's like a hard man kind of role as Brown could do. Do you know? I don't think he's that kind of physical way, but he can certainly read the game well. I think Awata.
Yeah, but is that what we're saying under Brendan Rodgers, Hoggy? Is that what we were saying? If we play Brendan Rodgers 4-3, what do you say, Mark? 4-3-2-1?
4-2-3-1.
4-4-3-1 is would Awata and Callum be in there, and Callum be the one moving forward and kind of controlling the play up there, get the best out of Callum McGregor, Mark.
Aye.
It's just that.
It's just that number 10 role that just actual players that are there now that's in the club in that Paul. I don't see where we get a number 10 now. But that could be a big, massive money spinning signing.
Yeah. Rodgers' Celtic team were utterly shit without the ball. Therefore, pointless, hostile passing smelled of fair to me. I think, Mark, you can't. I
thought Ange. I mean, I've said this as well. I thought Ange's teams were going the same way. Strange love. I really do. I thought a lot of the times especially in the last 6 months or that, I thought a lot of the times it was like watching a kind of Brendan Rodgers team. Possession, just keeping the ball and passing it for the sake of passing it, instead of actually looking to what you're saying there, just getting it every minute, always looking to get in about the other team.
Now, I would think, Mark, what I kind of said there at the Stranger wasn't there at the start, but the difference I see now in the Rodgers now and from the Rodgers that we had 4 years ago, Mark, is that he changes his formation a lot on the opposition. Do you know what I mean? So the Rodgers that we saw, Mark, under Livingston, passing the ball side to side, would he change his formation, Mark, to a more attacking role in doing Livingston,
But even Paul, even doing it, it's more the European approach, I mean, we can't go toe to toe with PSG, that kind of thing. That's what he's got to learn.
Well, I think, Mark, it maybe, but
good night, UD. Thanks very much.
Leicester, Mark, in the Conference League, Mark, he changed his formation in the Conference League. Do you know what I mean? He didn't. I know the difference. The teams, Mark, in the Conference League, Mark, are can't say, Mark, they're not decent teams either, Mark. I mean, you look at the final there, Mark. You had West Ham and you had who was the other team in the Fiorentina, Mark? I mean, they're two decent teams, really, Mark, in the Conference League final. Do you know what I mean? You know, so
Realistically, why should Celtic not be aiming for that? Right,
you know,
good night, you Dave. Thanks very much for coming in again, mate. Nice to see you, bud. Good night.
you know.
But I mean, that's the thing, Paul. And the money we spend, Paul, that's got to be the aim for any, whether it's Brendan Rodgers or anybody, Paul. It's got to be progression in Europe.
I think, Mark, for me, the aim for Celtic, Mark, this year should aim for second, Mark, obviously, right? But the main aim should be finishing third and have the Europa League and get a good run in the Europa League after Christmas.
But that should be our aim every year.
Yeah, that's my aim.
I've said that for 12, 15 years, Paul. That should be our aim every year.
Is this the aim that Rodgers, Mark, is actually putting out to the Celtic board, Mark, that he wants to be the team that finishes second, Mark, and get into the knockout stages? Is that his aim, do you think?
I mean, let's be honest, finishing second in the Champions League, they knew it's a big, big ask. We need a hell of a bit of luck in the draw. Right, but realistically, the third place finish has got to be the realistic approach for Celtic. That's what we've got to aim for. No matter where we are in Europe, Paul, whether even it's the Champions League, Europa League, we've got to get into later stages and still get European football after Christmas and stuff like that.
Yeah,
and that's progression, and you make more money, you can grow as a club, your reputation. Reputation of a club fine, but I'm talking about is actually doing stuff in Europe. I mean, when was the last time we won an away leg in a European game? Stuff like that. Things like that there's got to be something fundamentally wrong with what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And if Rodgers is coming in and planning making Celtic as we spoke about, Paul, we're never going to win the Champions League. Do you get what I mean? But there's no reason why we can't get to the later stages of the Europa League. And maybe have a chance of winning it. There's definitely no reason why we can't get to later stages of that Conference League. We have a chance of winning it.
Is that like for? I can see what the lads Hoggy and Strangelove are saying. They're like change for no Mark, go toe to toe. But is this what? But is this what Rodgers is trying to say, though, Mark? Is to the Celtic board is to bring in that better caliber of player to go toe to toe with these teams, you know.
But how much money and what caliber of player do Celtic need to bring in?
I know.
Go toe to toe with your Man Cities, your Real Madrid, your Barcelonas, and stuff like that. Even the lower teams in these leagues, do you get what the money they spend?
Mm.
I mean, we'll always get shock results. I mean, Neil Lennon beating Barcelona. Do you get what I mean? One of the best results ever in Celtic's history. But it was a freak result.
Mm. I actually agree with Hoggy there. I think not so much me either, but I think he'd come in for Hatase or Brighton or something like that. Mark would come in for because there was kind of rumours there that Brighton were kind of sniffing around him last season, weren't they?
Aye.
You know.
Surely Rodgers will see what worked. I see. Is that going to change, Paul, all that inverted fullback stuff and all that?
Oh, I think so, Mark. Yeah, I think so.
Going to get back to kind of old overlapping fullback, kind of the second winger kind of thing.
Yeah, second winger, Mark. That's the one thing that never kind of changed. Even at Leicester, Mark, that never changed. Never changed. He wanted to sign Castagna that time for Celtic, Mark.
Aye.
To be that specific right back that he wanted, you know, and he didn't get him. Who was the first signing he signed for Leicester? Was Castagna. You know, he wanted this specifically for that role, Mark, that would overlap the wingers. You know,
right.
Mickey Johnson. No, sorry, not Mickey Johnson. Alistair Johnson, Mark has.
You can do. You'll be able to do both of them, won't it?
You know, but I have a worry, and I don't know. Do the lads on the live chat agree with me.
Taylor, can Taylor play under Rodgers?
Taylor doing it, you know. I actually can see.
If he can't, that for me, that's just we should just not get Rodgers in then. If it's not going to suit Greg Taylor, Paul, we can't give him the job, no chance.
You know, I'd be taking Mark.
That's a joke, by the way, Hoggy, a £40 so
Barnaby Mark is more suited to overlapping than Craig Taylor. The only problem I have with him is he's defending at the moment. You know what I mean? You know, but then again, Mark, did we see enough of him?
But
Not
see,
really.
I was talking to Mikey the other day. Is Bernabe not getting caught up into Argentina's national setups and stuff like that?
Under 21s, I think, is it or something like that? No, it's
So,
at the moment, aren't they?
But I mean, we've not seen much of Bernabe, and I've said that all along. There's got to be a player in there. I mean, he looks a bit like a kind of frightened rabbit in the headlights sometimes, but there's no way Celtic's spend that kind of money on him. What do you think?
I heard an interesting thing today, Mark. You know, maybe he couldn't adjust or really get used to this inverted full back role, Mark. And he's more when you look at his time in Argentina, Mark, he was more suited to the role a team like Brendan Rodgers in overlapping, you know,
right.
Being that kind of left wing, or would you call it, Mark? You know, a left wing back kind of a role, you know. He was more suited to that, you know. And will Max take two from the squad? I'd say Kyogo at 30 and O'Reilly.
If he takes Matt O'Reilly with a riot, no allowing that. I don't know. He seemed. I read an interview with Matt O'Reilly the other day, and he seems to be quite happy the new and fancying where his career is and stuff like that. He seems to have been kind of struggling with the fame side of things. The way I was reading it, it's like
you never know, Mark. Ange might come in for no one. Do you know what I mean? You know.
Because I mean, it's the same thing, Paul. He's come into Scotland and thought, right, I can get him. They'll do a job for me in Scotland. Maybe he's got other players that he thinks, I'm in England. It's a different gravy now. So I've got this player in mind, that player in mind that doesn't fancy any of the players that he thought, right, they'll do me a job in Scotland.
Or it could be Spurs all over again, Mark, and just sign players that don't suit the managers altogether. You know.
I mean, that's just going to go into. It could go either way from down there. I hope it goes Pete Tong, to be honest, but
you know, because he's one of the like if we think Peter Law was shrewd operator, market transfers and signing players, and David Leary's the next step altogether. You know,
but Ange never dealt with Peter Law doing that, was it? It was Nicholson. But that Daniel Levy's a pure. He's an animal when it comes to negotiating money and stuff like that.
Yeah. And for signing players, Mark, he's a lot of saying as well, Mark, who Tottenham sell and who Tottenham buy. You know what I mean?
Well, they brought in that Australian, that Munn. Was it Scott Munn or something like that?
Director of football, yeah.
They brought him in, so fair dues, Angel know him, that's probably a kind of ally, but it's a bit, I suppose it's a bit like Peter Lille was under like Ronnie and Rodgers.
Yeah, but Mark, they actually did still
it comes down to Daniel Levy, that's who makes the final decision. And Harry Kane, if he's still there.
Football, Mark, but it was Levy that was still calling the fucking shots there. I don't think any of their director of footballs had any
because many times have they done that. Many of them have went through as well, like directors of football, sporting directors, and all this kind of stuff.
You mean how long has Levy been
just
there?
The same thing. Paul, if Mourinho and Conte can't do in at the Spurs, Ange isn't going to rip up any kind of. Do you know what I mean? The way that club's set up, that club's just going to plod along the way it is until Levy's at the building. That's the only reason. That's the only way Spurs will change.
I agree with you, Steve. I couldn't care less how Ange gets on. Ange is out the door. My main focus is Celtic. You know, and Celtic, Mark, since Here's a question for you. Actually, I want Dan to do well and flex well in us, but I also have to back him at Celtic and in a heartbeat. He's the best manager I've seen at Celtic since O'Neill and Burns. That's the question I was going to put out there. Who's the best manager since we've seen O'Neill? Is are we to say that Ange is a better manager than Ben and Rodgers, going by experience, Mark, and stuff like that? Is he a better manager than Rodgers, or
Gordon
vice
Stratton.
versa?
What about Gordon
Yeah.
Stratton?
You know,
You know what I mean? Gordon Stratton, what did he do for us in Europe? But
Yeah.
last 16 of the Champions League, what, twice?
and look at the players he had then, Mark. They were all
Aye.
Scottish players at the time.
Aye, that was him kind of downgrading for Martin O'Neill's spending sprees. Do you know what I mean? He was cutting corners and saving his money and goes to the last 16 of the Champions League.
Mm. Yeah.
I mean, it's a tough. See, it's still raw because it's still kind of raw because Ange's just left. You know what I mean? But see, what we're talking about with Neil Lennon earlier on in 10 years' time, everything will be forgiven about the 10 in a row season. They'll get a lot more respect for Celtic fans and that. When it comes down to that kind of time, Paul, 10 years' time, we'll think back and it'll be Ange was, right, he won as a treble, played great football and that. But again, we didn't do anything in Europe. And that's where now, for me, Celtic need to up their game as a club and make their mark as a European club. It's not good enough just to be one step in front of any team playing out of Ibrox. We need to up our game and become a Champions League European level type of club and start acting like one. And bringing back a guy like bringing back a guy like Brendan Rodgers, that kind of elite level of a manager, that's got, apart from the stuff the way you left and that, but that's got to be a good thing for Celtic going forward, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's going to keep. It's going to at least, at the worst, it's going to keep the levels that Ange set the same, and at the best, it's going to up them a bit more to the kind of elite level when we're talking about training facilities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. I agree with your states. Straight love in style of football, not success. But it has been, Mark. You have to give Ange that. It has been the best football we actually seen at Celtic in a long, long time. You know.
Oh, definitely for a long, long time. Mm-hmm. But in the last 6 months, was it that good?
But I would just hope, Mark, that Rodgers sees the players, Mark, that we have now, and his style of football, Mark, can be a lot faster as well with this team. You know?
It's like
a different team.
It's a different approach.
It's like what I'm trying to say is,
but he's not setting, Paul. He's not setting up to play against your Chelsea's or your Man United, Man City. Yeah. He's setting up Celtic to play against your Hearts and your Hibs, and that's managers can have a more open approach to it. So hopefully he keeps that going the way he did in the first season he was here.
What I'm trying to say is, like, is this Celtic team better as a squad, Mark, that we had under Rodgers' first time here?
Oh, 1,000,000%, my opinion.
Bar one or two players, Mark, I think you could say, in this. You know what I mean?
No,
just Dembele's, Mark, and Scott London.
But overall, the quality.
Scott Sinclair, Mark. Do you know what I mean? Even Scott Sinclair at that time. You know what I mean? Bar one or two players, I think this squad is, much better. You know?
Oh, definitely.
Budget-wise, Mark, we're much better. I mean, there's so much I think Rodgers could do with this team and bring in a better caliber player, Mark, too. You mean you don't need to dismantle this team, Mark. You just need to add to it, you know?
Aye, I mean, just even imagine we're talking about the kind of level of players and the money and that, but imagine just even, sorry if you can hear Yoda whining there. Just imagine how much a team would kick on, Paul, with one or two quality signings. For Jane Knight, 4-2-3-1. I'm right, we're struggling with like a Cam, the number 10 role. Imagine we went out and signed some player at the kind of 10 million, 12 million pound bracket in there. That could totally transform the full team the way it plays, as long as we keep the likes of Jota. Do you know what I mean? The other kind of star players and attacking people like that. I mean, I did honestly think, Paul, that for the first time in a long time, that this is the best position Celtic's been in for any incoming manager.
Financial wise, everything, Mark.
Everything, Paul. The
The
finances,
infrastructure is there,
the
Mark. I mean,
infrastructure, the money's there in the bank, the assets in the squad.
and I think, Mark, as well,
The players will go to the squad.
This has been the best. It's the best our scouting department, Mark, has been in a long time as well. I know people are saying Ange had a lot of saying in the signings, yeah, but if you look at the likes of O and stuff like that, Mark, I would think that Mark Law would have been in and around.
I don't think Ange had much to do with those signing, Paul.
No.
Because see, when he was there in Japan, he was doing his national service and playing like his college or whatever you want to call it, that level of football. So I'd honestly think that's been like a Matt Lowell signing, Paul. Right, and Carter Vickers, that was a no signing. That was a low signing. Even Jota, I don't know if Jota, that was a Celtic signing, Paul. Ange didn't know anything about him.
No, that he was actually on the books, kind of on Celtic's radar, Mark, for a while, weren't they? Weren't they? On the bad.
So as it's back to the thing, it's like any manager comes into a club, they're allowed a couple of their players to pick a few of their signings, but apart from that, they've got to be this kind of understanding that we're bringing players in that you need to work with. I mean, do you think Ange ever heard of Matt O'Reilly before we signed him?
No, he wanted the one Riley McGree, Mark, was this? He wanted that fella.
Aye, that's
right. For Riley, want this?
Aye, that's right, aye. But that's the way all big clubs run now, Paul. They're signing the manager wants, and they're signing that the club want for them to move forward and keep. If this guy goes, he's moving into the squad and stuff like that. So I've got no problem with Mark Lowell not picking players that we've to sign.
We need a new keeper and a new partner for Carter Vickers before we think about attacking players. I agree the new keeper, but I wouldn't knock Starfelt just yet, Mark, would you?
No. I don't see. Starfelt still gets the first couple of shaky games he had for his like Hearts and places like this. People still hold that against him, but
he's one player, Mark, I actually don't see leaving Celtic at the moment because he's banging that one Jacinta. Do you know what I mean? So as long as she stays with the Celtic women, I think Starfelt is going to stay here. Do you know?
No, there is interest for England and Europe and that for Starfelt. I don't know why a lot of Celtic fans don't like Starfelt. I think he's a.
Yeah, Mark, he's a Swedish international. He's caught up with the Swedish team every time.
I'm quite happy with him and Carter Vickers as a partnership.
You know, never lost a derby, Mark. Never lost a derby.
No. I don't see why he still takes a kind of. He doesn't take as much grief, but he always gets a kind of. There's always wee digs on social media.
I think we need a good backup. That's what we need for them, man. We need a good backup who's going to put pressure on the two of them. You know?
Because I don't think that Kobayashi looks the part, Paul.
You know? I think you know what, Mark? If you're looking at a lot of these players that aren't signed, Mark, a lot of them mightn't suit Brendan Rodgers, like, you know, like we're talking about Mark, we're talking about who's to say Rodgers mightn't like them. Maybe he might like a more physical player in there, or I don't know.
Aye.
You know? He might
I've said that all along, Paul. For any manager coming in, and for me, it's a bit like your kind of modern game, Paul. Do you know what I mean? You're kind of the big kind of physical, muscly strikers if you're only playing with one up front. Yeah. And most kind of modern managers, that's what they prefer up front. In fact, that's how I said earlier on as well. I think O could be more suited to Brendan Rodgers' game than Kyogo could.
Yeah. I think O is getting right off too early, Mark. Do you know what I mean? Klinsmann obviously rates him. Do you know what I mean?
But again, Paul, he's just off the back of playing a full season.
You know,
He's
I think
only
Rodgers,
a
Mark,
young
as well
boy.
would have liked G. Marcus. You know,
Giacomakis would have been a kind of Rodgers type of player as well.
Rodgers would have liked him. You know, is he the fastest player, I think, in Atlanta's history, Mark, there to get 10 goals? You know. But is this the point, Mark? That is this the as part of the rather negotiations, Mark, that like not so much like well, here we are talking about Rodgers wanted being in Celtic, Mark, this next level. We're talking about the transfer budget, but you've been saying this for so long, Mark, about a wage structure. Maybe that's what Rodgers trying to say, Mark. If you want to bring in the kind of player, you need to up not so much your like Mark. You can get quality players. You don't have to be spending 10, 20 million on a player, Mark. We saw
No,
Alza Johnson, but maybe that's what Rodgers is saying, Mark. Not so much the transfer budget, but the wage structure. I actually never thought of that. Do you think maybe that's what he was saying? You
but
know?
it might be he just wanting more. Obviously he's just wanting to know what kind of budget he's got, and if he said, "Well, I want to spend it a bit better," is that right? I know, right? I keep speaking on it because I keep saying it. People on the forum seem to think I'm saying it's actually happening, but Dembele's a prime example. They're Moussa Dembele sitting there. He's in a free transfer. Why no from 60, 70, 80 grand a week to sign for Celtic again? You're not paying any transfer fee for a player that you know can score goals in Scotland. He scores goals in Europe. You're getting a 20, 30 million pound player for a free transfer. All you need to do
Roughly,
is
though,
pay
Mark,
them
I
higher
don't know,
wages.
right? I don't know. You know what I mean? What would uh, Rangers' highest paid player be on? I don't know. I don't.
Oh, they're meant to have been paying some crazy money to guys, Paul, to be honest.
Yeah?
Aye, they're probably paying guys more than we are.
You know?
But as I said, it's not the amount of money we spend, it's how we spend it. Our annual wage bill is over £10 million a year more than Ajax. Who's getting better value for money, us or Ajax? And that's them
Yeah.
spending for 18 million in that big Diddy Bassey. Do you know what I mean? But it's the wages. The Celtic should be pushing the boat out for wages for a couple of star men. There we're talking about if you're going to go 4-2-3-1, right? We need a new cam, a new number 10. Go out and spend 10, 12 million on a new cam. If he doesn't fancy Kyogo, go out and spend 10, 12 million on a new striker.
It was straight love. They're just talking about Bobby and you've always been a fan of Welsh, Mark. You know what I mean? You always have. You've kind of liked the look of Welsh, Mark, didn't you?
No, he's not kicked on at all. That was just to wind up Mikey. I used to call him future Celtic captain Stephen
Was
Welsh.
it you
But Hoggy there again.
The Italian team, Mark, that were in for him. You know.
But there, Hoggy, how can we not afford 70 grand a week? If we're not paying a transfer fee for a player.
You know, but what is cap, Mark? Has our cap ever went up, or is it still around the 35?
It's about 35, aye.
You know,
But
could
if
we
you're
at least
saying
push that to 40, Mark? 45, 50? Good
easily.
max,
But that's what I mean, Paul. Easily. We're
you know?
we're getting into the Champions League next season. We've got plenty in the bank. So why can Celtic not afford to give a player 70 grand a week if he's the right player for the team? And as I said with Dembele, if he's in a free, even if it's a guy, you can find players that are a bargain that the teams just want rid of. You could go and sign a guy for £5 or £6 million. But if you're from 70, 60, 70 grand a week, he's going to come to Celtic. And Celtic should be, for the right player, I'm not talking about for just like replacing Greg Taylor by a guy at that kind of wages. I'm talking about a player like a new striker, somebody that makes a difference to your team.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And that right there, imagine the dressing room in some EPL racks up 70 grand a week. Well, what happens when Ronaldo and that rock up at teams? No, everybody's chatting down the manager's door saying, "Here, I want £500,000 a week."
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? That doesn't work like that.
Callum Mark gets 30. I think Callum Mark's one of the
Aye.
highest, isn't it?
But if a player walks up to the manager and says, "Oh, he's in 70 grand a week, so I want the same," when you say, "No, you're not worth that, so we'll get rid of you and we'll sign a player that's worth that." Players want to moan about wages. The majority of players don't even know what other players are on, because that's seen as a bit chavvy to actually start talking about money when you're all sitting there millionaires. So if you're going out there and buying a player and paying him top dollar and he's putting in the goals, getting you further in the Champions League, scoring goals in Europe, etc., winning you trophies and leagues, nobody can moan about the wages he's getting.
Yeah, but like, I can see the point. The lads are making about the difference in wages, Mark, and players will fall then that. But
it's your star man, Paul.
But if you want to keep players like Callum Mack and stuff like that, Mark, who are on 35, I mean, if you want to keep these players, Mark, you'd have to up your money with. I think 70 mark would be too much for Celtic with this. Maybe 50 max.
But for somebody you're not paying a transfer fee for.
You know.
I mean, that was just a kind of situation I spoke about in the forum, Paul, with Dembele, but I'm just talking about in general. If you're not paying a transfer fee for a player, you should be able to offer them more money. That's the whole point of signing a Bosman.
Mm-hmm. You know, speaking of Chris Sutton, actually, right? What do you think of him? Andy Walker getting the boot. Well, he says he walked, but I heard he got the boot from Sky Scotland. Chris Sutton. But what's going to happen here if Sutton's not left into eye blocks over safety? What's going to happen? I can't see Sky Sports.
I don't think Sky, and
you know, that's actually a big move by Sky Sports, Mark, Sky Sports Scotland, as they call it, for bringing in Chris Sutton. I think the football actually needs that. You know what I mean?
He's one of the best pundits involved in the Scottish game, Paul, definitely.
You know,
it's got to improve the quality of Sky's broadcast.
Can you imagine Chris Boyd trying to give Sutton a hands up? Do you know what I mean? A hands up. Do you imagine? Yeah, I can just picture, because maybe he did that one. It was on Shea Given was on the transfer centre. It was at the time they were signing Ramsey, and Shea Given was on with Chris Boyd on the transfer deadline day, Mark, for Scotland, you know. And it was time they were signing Ramsey, and Boyd went to give Shea Given a hands up when they were signing Ramsey that time. And Shea Given just looked at him. He says, "You don't expect me to give you a hands up for Rangers signing the player, do you?" You know. Jesus Christ, man. I agree. Someone will put Boyd in his place, definitely. That's what I'm actually looking forward to, Mark.
Because see the thing about it, Sutton's got a kind of sharp mind. Do you know what I mean? He comes back with stuff right away. Chris Boyd needs to think about it before he opens his mouth.
Yeah, something will put him in his place, Mark. I agree with you, Kieran. But it has been a record-led podcast, but I mean, the live chat has been going on. There's just been so much to talk about tonight, Mark. Really, hasn't there? You know what I mean? Like all the talk about one person, and you know. Do you think though, like we wind it up now, the last thing before we go? Do you think though, Mark? I don't think there'd be 30,000 Celtic fans outside Celtic Park welcoming Brendan Rodgers this time, do you? Or will there?
There might be, Paul. No, I mean, there'll be maybe a lot of people will be like, for all the kind of fucking haters, they'll be like, I'll show up.
But you know what though, Mark? A lot of the haters, and when you look at the live chat tonight, and stuff like that, a lot of people have kind of coming around to the idea of Rodgers coming back, you know. I don't
Just
see.
that, I think, Paul. I mean, as I said earlier, it all comes down to the way you left. See if you can put that out your way. It's the best move Celtic can
And you
make.
look at the man. You look at the manager itself, Mark, and not what happened. You look at what's coming back to the club. I think that's what you need to look at, isn't it?
Aye. And
You
if you
know.
said that if he's come in and asked for this guarantee and I want this and I want that, he's not coming back to play again, fighting with Peter Lawler stuff in that. He'll have made his position clear in what he wants, and Dermot Desmond's obviously going to accepting it if it is going to be Rodgers that gets the job.
Mm-hmm. Imagine if it went tits up. Jesus Christ. Huh?
I can't see it now. I mean, really, why would it? Because don't forget, the two sides of the story, Paul, they're leaking stuff to the press. Do you know what I mean? The two sides are leaking stuff to the press, and
I think as well, Mark, is it that fella? What's his name? The journalist over in Scotland. Is it the fella McGowan? Is it? Is it McGowan? Is it?
Stephen McGowan?
Stephen McGowan. Is he kind of a link to Celtic or something? Is he that he gets?
I used to have. I'm sure. Aye.
Yeah, I think he's kind of putting out stuff as well. Like, and a lot of people are saying they kind of don't believe stuff unless he kind of leaks it out. Like, you know what I mean? That they kind of believe it when it kind of comes out of his mouth. Then.
But you know, one of Lowell's kind of puppets back in the day when Lowell was running things.
You know,
they're Frankie saying if he wins a European trophy, I'll forgive him.
Fuck, I never know, man.
I think
the benchmark he wants, Mark. This is what I think Rodgers wants to make his mark on Europe, Mark, more so than the league. Like, you know what I mean? You know. Does Piss Boyd's facial figure stay constant as his head swells larger every season? You know, I really like I struggle with this because when Kaiser came on, I didn't have a clue what he was saying. You know. But Chris Boyd, I don't have a clue, Mark, what he'd be saying. I think you're the same. Half the stuff he'd be saying, I don't know what he'd be. He just doesn't have a football brain, Mark, does he?
No.
You know?
He's a kind of comedy character kind of thing, really, isn't he?
You know? And then you see him on the fucking Soccer Saturday then as well. With I don't watch that anymore, like, but sometimes he'd be on that foot and they'd be all looking at him going, Jesus Christ, like, what does he be saying? Does he work for the he works for the Daily Mail, Mark, Kieran Renz is saying.
Aye, that McGowan guy, aye.
You know, I think there's kind of there's a verbal agreement, Mark, practically done. Do you know what I mean? It's just
I think it's just iron out the kind of minor details of it.
Minor details, Mark, and Rodgers getting his backroom staff and stuff like that. I think that's all that needs to be done. Like, but I think Rodgers will be.
Big Jabber said, what day is this? This Wednesday. Jabber said on Monday night that he heard it was getting announced yesterday, and that's no happened. So that shows you how much he knows.
You know. I said tomorrow, Mark, or Friday. I say it could be.
There'll be something announced before the end of the week, I think.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean he's going to be here or anything like that. Do you know what I mean? It'll be announced, and he'll just turn up for the start of kind of pre-season. When's that? The 2nd of July or something? I'm meant to be back.
Yeah. 2nd of July. You know, Christ, it was a quick holiday, boy, for Brendan Rodgers, wasn't it? You know,
aye.
Quickest holiday ever. So was that in one day? Where did he go on fucking one day for a holiday? Jesus Christ. Huh?
Oh, see that? I don't... People... I think that was just a background, Paul. That video behind Stephen doing that interview with the Spurs. I think he was there in Greece and that was just a background they'd sent out to do that video. And no way he was doing in London after he flew out to Greece.
You know. Fucking did he take the...
Brendan Rodgers will be standing there with a cardboard cutout of Danny McGrain. That's not
I forget. I actually forget it, Mark. I forget the story, Mark. What he said. What was it again with Danny
Was
McGreen?
it Danny McGreen came in and said, "Oh, I didn't know if you would still want me at the club," and he said something about, "Oh, as long as I'm here, you'll be here." It's a pure birthday card nonsense. Do you know what I mean?
You know.
But that'll be a cardboard cut out of him and Danny McGreen. But I said on the Discord last week, earlier on in the week, that it was as if is he playing the game? Is he going to come out in his first press conference and say, "Oh, I was wanting a wee break for football and I was looking at other options, but after speaking to Dermot Desmond, the pull of coming back to Celtic was just too tough for me to turn down." He's going to come out with that kind of rubbish. I can tell you that now. You could write
But
it
that's
for him.
it, Mark. But that's Mark. That's what footballers say, man. Do you know what I mean? That's what managers say, Mark. You know what I mean? You know that's modern football now, Mark. Do you know what I mean? It's you play the game, like that's it.
Aye, it's a kind of playing the media and stuff like that.
Because he did say that he was going to. So the first things Mark that was linking Brendan Rodgers to the thing, and the only kind of talk at the time was he wanted a kind of sabbatical out of the game for a year and stuff like that. And that you're right, like that's what he could say, Mark. After talking to David Desmond and Michael Nicholson, and that's
What if Brendan Rodgers has a red term to keep the press busy?
Christ, might be not. Do you know what, Mark? I say there'd be more of a meltdown than there was with the Eddie Howe situation than there would be now. You know.
And who would we go? Who would it be then?
I don't know, Mark. The only person I can think of Denmark is
Maresca.
Yeah, and I just that's an appointment, Mark, that would actually give me more worry than anything.
That would. I just really don't fancy that at all. Really.
Like people are saying, like, oh yeah, but he's worked with Pep Guardiola, and he's like, yeah, but he could be a good coach. Do you know what I mean? He could be a good coach, man. You never. Just because you're a good coach, Mark, doesn't mean you're like he's flopped at misery at a thing. I say we leave it there, man. It's 9:15. Thanks.
You've still not your dinner yet?
No. Thanks to all the lads for joining us tonight. Some new subscribers. If there's news, we'll be back on straight away that night. Hopefully it won't be too long that Celtic can get things up and running. Beale was a good coach, but was not. Beale will have 2 moles by the time Rodgers fucking finished with him.
See, but is Kennedy the same? Is Kennedy the same? That's my thing about Kennedy.
Could be Mark, yeah.
Does he know that he's a good coach, but he couldn't hack the actual management side?
People, Mark, just don't want to be the main man, Mark, don't they?
No, and it's kind of because it's a different bond, Paul. If you're a coach, if you're the assistant manager, that kind of guy, you're the kind of you're the buffer between the manager and the squad. So you're still kind of one of the lads and having a laugh and a joke, but you can be serious when you need to be because you're doing the manager's job. Do you know what I mean? So that you've got that kind of cover. I'm only doing what I'm being told today. And I think maybe Kennedy's that same kind of guy.
Wasn't B taking the credit from Gerrard's fucking when
that
thing, won't he? He'd have a gross grown out of a gross. That's what he will. Fucking Egypt, don't get me started in fucking B. Christ. I wonder will he call fucking Rodgers a lucky man now, will he? Rodgers lucky that he worked in the Premier League and I didn't get the chance, and that's why he's elite manager because he's lucky.
Calm down, Paul. Don't start at this time, man. Fucking hell, bud.
They got me started.
We're not on our rant.
They got me started in fucking Beale now, man. Jesus Christ, man. With a fucking jacket that doesn't even fit him, it's fucking busted into him. Christ. Mark, close the show, buddy, bye. We let it there.
Right, okay. Right, thanks very much, Paul. Everybody that joined the live chat, new faces, all the new guys. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope he's come back and listen again. If you know how, hit the like button. If you know, please leave a comment as well, because it helps with the YouTube algorithm. Hail, hail, good night, and God bless.